Straight Talk Society. This is your host, Trevor, and I'm back with another episode of Straight Talk with Trevor.
Because the ladies from Pour Your Heart Out
no topic
will be over
is
here
off
to
limits.
join the panel.
Plus, but it's a must, you don't respect this. Plus, you're nuts with touch of dust, you try to check this. You ain't
The
insane,
MMA brothers, Bones and Zay, have pre and post shows to the MMA shows. And I am your host, Mr. Straight Talk, the man with the greatest beard on YouTube.
I'm gonna tell you something. Facial hair is not apostolic. However you want to cut it, it's compromise. I don't care if your leader says you can wear a beard, honey. Beard's nothing more than pride. You're not going to be dipped in Holy Ghost oil and run around looking like the world.
Oh, I love throwing that in there. Real quick, I am back on Facebook. I guess they took me out of jail. I was able to connect the channel back. Those of you on Facebook, make sure and hit that like, share, and subscribe button.
And also on Mondays, 6 o'clock, tune in to the same channel for Man Talk Monday. Trust me, you ain't got nothing better to do. Even if you think you do and you tune into that show, you're going to realize, oh, man,
okay,
I've been missing this.
Yeah. Because this is why you need me.
Once you listen to that, drop a like. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel because you're hard-headed, go ahead and subscribe to it
They
now.
are goofy.
And when you listen to that, if you haven't subscribed, you're going to want to subscribe. And then you're going to want to go back through the archives. And you're going to want to catch up on all your Man Talk Mondays. And then you might be able to find a few Bible debates in there.
That's what I'm going to say. TFP politics is on Tuesday.
Vancat, Mike, MD, and Ricardo do such a fantastic job with that. That's every Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
My position is impregnable. You can't do it.
If that doesn't fancy your boat,
yeah, Wrestling with Reality on Wednesday.
Oh yeah, acknowledge.
We have the return of Straight Talk Therapy Sessions with the one and only Dr. Mia. So y'all be sure and tune into that.
And then you got the Bible debates on Thursdays.
So yeah, man, lock in with the Straight Talk Society, man, because you won't regret it, and we appreciate it. Also, merch coming out too. Look out for the merch. And if y'all can be so kind as to subscribe to the channel, it's only $1.99 a month. With all this premium content that we pushing out, it's definitely worth it. It just helps provide the channel with a resource to give y'all even better content, as if it can get better, right? But you know, just go ahead and show us some love. We would be greatly appreciative.
The Straight Talk Society. We will not go over that 2.5 hour mark. So, Mike, you know you ain't got no shirt on, right?
I never have clothes on, bro.
But I'm saying you like right on the. Like
my bad. I don't like clothes, bro. Anybody that knows me, my fault.
Do you really believe that garbage?
It's not about a believing, it's a matter of fact.
So you believe.
Well, nobody else could make a decision but me because I was the president, and the final decision comes to the president.
You know, it's easy enough for a Monday morning quarterback to say what the coach should have done after the game's over. But when the decision is up before you, and on my desk I have a motto which says the buck stops here, the decision has to be made.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
And I want to say this to the television audience. I made my mistakes, but in all of my years of public life, I have never profited from public service. I've earned every cent. And in all of my years of public life, I have never obstructed justice. And I think, too, that I could say that in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination, because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got. President? Yep.
Mr. President, I want to raise an issue that I think you've been lurking out there for 2 or 3 weeks and casting specifically in national security terms. You already are the oldest president in history. Some of your staff say you were tired after your most recent encounter with Mr. Mondale. I recall yet that President Kennedy had to go for days on end with very little sleep during the Cuba Missile Crisis. Is there any doubt in your mind that you would be able to function in such circumstances?
Not at all, Mr. Truitt, and I want you to know that also I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience.
And I'm the one who will not raise taxes. My opponent now says he'll raise them as a last resort or a third resort. But when a politician talks like that, you know that's one resort he'll be checking into. And my opponent won't rule out raising taxes, but I will, and the Congress will push me to raise taxes, and I'll say no. And they'll push, and I'll say no. And they'll push again, and I'll say to them, read my lips. No new taxes.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
You're full of shit.
All right, thank you.
No, shush. Shush.
In any country, prison is where society sends its failures. But in this country, society itself is failing.
I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
We won the evangelicals. We won with young. We won with old. We won with highly educated. We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
You crazy.
Grab him by the pussy.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Stay shut your mouth, because you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I did.
Hold it, tough guy. I'm not afraid of physical. Hold it.
Don't sit there and tell me I'm not.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. You fool me, we can't get fooled again.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Stand back and stand by. Will you shut up, man?
Last thing was Olivia Gondak. It says that I wanted to eat her pussy. Olivia Gondak. I've never said that in my life to her. I would never do that. I'm happily married. I've got more than enough to eat at home. Thank you very much.
You got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Okay. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible. I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words. We now have a gun on every table. We're ready to start shooting.
By the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it.
This is the same man. Sarcastic. That was.
Even though they're trying to impeach the son of a bitch. Can you believe that? You believe that? That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
If I may ask
Peter,
one other
ahead.
question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one other.
I don't want reality. I'm asking the question: which one is better? That's exactly what it is.
Got it on tape.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
I don't like words that hide the truth. I don't like words that conceal reality. I don't like euphemisms or euphemistic language. And American English is loaded with euphemisms because Americans have a lot of trouble dealing with reality. Americans have trouble facing the truth. So they invent a kind of a soft language to protect themselves from it. And it gets worse with every generation. For some reason, it just keeps getting worse.
How stupid are these politicians to allow this to happen?
If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big
No,
guy.
no, stop it.
Is that your solution, every poll?
No, no, sit down. No, you're a clown. Sit down. Look at you.
You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts. Alternative facts. Alternative facts. Alternative facts.
Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat your.
I ain't talking politics. I'm talking life.
I ain't talking politics. I'm talking life.
That she saw during the marches which she participated in, people who were full of fear and hatred. Mr. Lucas has said that the American Negro is either going to be free or he's going to be dead.
Now, you get this straight. You can kill all the black folks you want to, baby, but you will not kill the freedom of black folks. It's coming. We're going to get it. We fought in every one of your damn lousy wars, baby, and you give us nothing. Now, the war is going to be here because we're going to be free. Now, you kill all you want to, but we kill too.
If you won't listen to me when I make an appeal for the Negroes because you have no concern for the Negroes, listen to me when I make an appeal for America. You claim you love America. Well, we love America. But you are driving us back and you are making a Samson out of us, and we are going to pull down the pillars. Should you try to pretend that I'm crazy because I want America to be saved? And then you think we have no right to ask for something? Is it too much to ask you to grant us human dignity? Should we be put down and shot to death for this request? If so, you can aim your guns. What the hell do you think we care about dying if you're going to deny us the right to live?
You told us we were free. Well, then show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well, then stick to your word and let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man, you're a worm, you're afraid of us, you're afraid to give us equal stand. You're afraid that if you give us equal ground that we will match you and we will override you. And if that's what you're afraid of us, then tell us that just what you're afraid of. But don't keep hiding it from us and holding this up to us, and every time we ask you for something, you give us a little bit of something, and it's all tokenism. We don't want tokenism. And there are most black men in this world that don't want charity. And yet still every time we ask you for something, you give us a little piece, a little piece. You're playing games with us. We're not children. We're not asking for anything. We're not asking for any favors. All we want is what's ours. We're just about out of patience. We're not going to ask anymore.
Most people say, if you don't like it here, get out. That's for spineless people. Spineless bastards who don't want to fight for what they believe in. Well, I'm staying here because I was born here, and I am going to fight for my freedom. And before I have kids, I am going to make sure that this damn United States deserves the existence of my kids. You white folks have either one of two choices. Give me my damn freedom or kill me. Because I am not going to take seeing my kids walking to a newly integrated school and getting their heads whipped in by grown men. Because if that happens to my kids, there are going to be a lot of damn dead white folks. And I mean a lot. Because I am not going to take this junk no more.
Congress passes the most sweeping civil rights bill ever to be written into the law, and thus reaffirms the conception of equality for all men that began with Lincoln and the Civil War 100 years ago. The Negro won his freedom then. He wins his dignity now. 5 hours after the House passes the measure, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is signed at the White House by President Johnson. Before an audience of legislators and civil rights leaders who had labored long and hard for passage of the bill, President Johnson calls for all Americans to back what he calls a turning point in history.
We must not approach the observance and enforcement of this law in a vengeful spirit. Its purpose is not to punish. Its purpose is not to divide, but to end divisions. Divisions which have lasted all too long. Its purpose is national, not regional. This Civil Rights Act is a challenge to all of us to go to work in our communities and our states, in our homes and in our hearts, to eliminate the last vestiges of injustice in our beloved country. So, tonight I urge every public official, every religious leader, every business and professional man, every working man, every housewife, I urge every American to join in this effort to bring justice and hope to all our people and to bring peace to our land.
There's warm applause from members of both parties as the president sets to work. It is work. He uses nearly 100 pens to affix his signature and date. Souvenirs go to Republican leader Everett Dirksen and Democratic whip Hubert Humphrey. The president seems to have mastered the art of just touching each pen to the paper.
Today is a triumph for freedom as huge as any victory that's ever been won on any battlefield. Yet to seize the meaning of this day, we must recall darker times. 3.5 centuries ago, the first Negroes arrived at Jamestown. They came in darkness and they came in chains. And today, we strike away the last major shackle of those fierce and ancient bonds. This act flows from a clear and simple wrong. Its only purpose is to right that wrong. Millions of Americans are denied the right to vote because of their color. This law will ensure them the right to vote. The wrong is one which no American in his heart can justify. The right is one which no American, true to our principles, can deny.
Promotional.
Yeah, about to have me some Duckton. What the What the heck? What the heck? I had my mouth. What the
Hello? Can anyone hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. All right. I think, I don't know. I don't know what kind of technicalities we had here, but I can hear you now, Ricardo. You can hear me fine? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Oh, my goodness. I don't know what happened there. That was crazy. Mike said, not two vent cats. No. All right. Sorry for that, everyone. But we're back online here now. So today's episode is episode 38. And this episode is Black Votes Matter. And this is a Juneteenth kind of celebration show.
So in this show, as you saw in the opening, we're just going to talk about the history of the black vote. As you saw back in the 1960s, the Voting Rights Act passed 1965, and just certain videos showing, how certain African Americans at the time felt in the moment and the frustration that they went through, and to see the bill go through. Unfortunately, in modern times, we still have a struggle with voting rights. So first off, you saw the video on the top of the video, Ricardo?
Yes, I did. I did see the video. It's quite interesting to see that period piece from that time period and how it resonates now.
Yeah, so you could see like the anger, really, the anger and the frustration, which is very poignant, and how certain people are like in the beginning intro, just the frustration, and to see the white people of the time, the way they're looking, and it's just crazy, and we have a lot of that still today, unfortunately. So we're gonna get into the show now. Again, sorry for the issue with the sound, but we're back on. And what I want to get into now is we have, like I said, in this day and time, we're still fighting for some voters' rights. We're still fighting against voter suppression. So let's take a look at this video, and we'll be back on the other end.
Republicans in Georgia are trying to make it harder to vote after President Biden flipped the state and Democrats won both Senate seats.
Georgia's Republican Governor Brian Kemp has signed a sweeping elections bill that civil rights groups are blasting as the worst voter suppression legislation since the Jim Crow era. This comes just months after Democrats won 2 Senate seats in Georgia, and Joe Biden became the first Democratic presidential candidate to win the state in 28 years. The bill grants broad power to state officials to take control of election management from local and county election boards. It also adds new voter ID requirements, severely limits mail ballot drop boxes, and rejects ballots cast in the wrong precinct. One provision would even make it a crime to hand out food or water to voters waiting in line at polling places.
GOP state lawmakers are pushing a sweeping election bill. It would put restrictions on early and absentee voting. Voting rights advocates are calling it a concerted effort to suppress the votes of black Georgians. The bill would ban counties from holding early voting on Sundays. Of course, Sunday is a popular day for black churchgoers to go out and vote during Souls to the Polls events. The bill would shrink the window of time that Georgians have to request an absentee ballot, and it would add a photo ID requirement. The locations of drop-off or ballot drop-off boxes would be restricted to early voting sites. The bill also cracks down on mobile voting booths, or buses in this case, really, which provided sort of pop-up voting locations in the Atlanta area, which is a Democratic stronghold.
Voting rights experts say the bill is specifically designed to make it harder for African Americans to vote. Governor Kemp signed the bill in private, surrounded by 6 white men. This comes amidst a nationwide push by Republicans to restrict the vote after Donald Trump lost in November. Since the election, Republican state lawmakers have introduced over 250 bills in 43 states to limit voter access. On Thursday, President Biden criticized the Republican efforts during his first news conference.
What I'm worried about is how un-American this whole initiative is. It's sick. It's sick. Deciding in some states that you cannot bring water to people standing in line, waiting to vote. Deciding that you're going to end voting at 5 o'clock when working people are just getting off work. Deciding that there will be no absentee ballots under the most rigid circumstances. And so I'm convinced that we'll be able to stop this, because it is the most pernicious thing. This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle. I mean, this is gigantic, what they're trying to do, and it cannot be sustained.
In Georgia, the Black Voters Matter Fund and the New Georgia Project have already sued to overturn the new law, saying it violates the Voting Rights Act and the First and 14th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution. On Thursday, Georgia Democratic State Representative Park Cannon, who's African-American, was arrested by state troopers after she knocked on Governor Kemp's door, saying the public deserved to witness his statement. She was dragged through the Capitol, pushed into a patrol car, even as she shouted she was an elected official. Newly elected Georgia Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock condemned Cannon's arrest.
I saw a state representative knocking on the door of the governor, and she was arrested. Meanwhile, we saw a violent insurrectionist attack on the United States Capitol. And police officers died in that case. And I want to know what makes her actions so dangerous.
Of course, black voters and absentee voting helped propel Democrats to victory in Georgia, a state that hadn't voted for a Democratic presidential candidate in nearly 30 years.
What's up, sister?
On Detroit's hardscrabble west side, it seems like everyone knows them.
That's your bike now?
From block to block and business to business. This group of black men shows up day after day, rain or shine, offering protection, resources, and respect.
Every day, y'all out here filling the gaps. Yeah, man, that's where our people at, so we gotta be here.
They are New Era Detroit, an organization that fills the often massive void between the people and the politicians.
We are one of the leading organizers on the ground in the city of Detroit. Literally, the closest that you're gonna get to black people in this city. We haven't heard anything from a Democrat or a Republican.
Men like them, in communities like theirs, could very well determine who is sent to the White House in 2024, with both Democrats and Republicans vying for their attention.
I got indicted a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against.
Black men have not benefited proportionate to other populations in terms of economic opportunity and economic health, much less wealth creation. And so we just have to be honest about that.
And while Biden has locked down traditional black voters, black men are poised to become something of a swing vote. Some polling showing that Trump is on track to capture a larger share of black voters than any other Republican presidential candidate since 1996. Why do you think it's been harder for them to connect to us?
They just want to get the votes, and that's it. They don't care about nothing else.
People come to our communities and pander for our votes, and we know we ain't never seen this person before, ever. We know it's fake.
In recent months, Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, and third-party candidate Robert Kennedy Jr. have all made trips to Michigan without visiting the kinds of neighborhoods that New Era works in.
You got to think, man, we live in communities where people, worrying about their next meal, where people worrying about, if they're going to be able to keep the lights on. We never seen these people. You know what I mean? They're not real people, and then when they come to, you just said, they come to Michigan and they come to these places, but it's not in our places.
Who among you is definitely going to vote? Raise your hand if you're definitely voting in this election. So just one. So you haven't decided whether you're going to vote or not?
I'm undecided as of right now. Me and my family, we're Democrats.
I don't know who I'm going to vote for.
None of us speak for all black men, but I wonder if the candidates were listening, what would you tell them that black men especially want for our communities?
Just want to see you, touch you. Just want to feel your vibe.
If you really want the black vote, spend more time in the black community with black people, hearing about their problems.
Back on the streets, the brothers of New Era are doing what they do best and what they say most politicians can't or won't do. Showing up for black people in a way they can feel.
What's up, bro?
All right. So there we go. Of course, as of late, especially the black vote, especially the male black vote, has been in the news prominently. You have Donald Trump making his so-called so-called efforts, whether it be making up crowds or making up AI images or making shoes that look funny, but that's his effort to come to the black community. You also have Biden, who's doing appearances here and there at some churches, but like the piece just illustrated, no one's really getting into the grassroots areas of the black communities that need to see people show up. What did you think, Ricardo, about that piece there, talking about the disconnect with the politicians running and the black community?
Well, the piece touched on a very important thing that I think both parties fail to realize. Just going to give some stats because maybe this might give some attention. So black voters remain largely aligned with the Democratic Party. So if you take that into account, that's like 83% identify with or lean towards Democrats in general. That's just black people. Whereas 77% of black registered voters say they would prefer to vote for Biden over Trump in this election that's coming in November. At the same time, black voters are very critical of Trump. Most say he was poor or was a terrible president. 72%, that is, said that. And many black adults think he broke the law in his alleged efforts to change the outcome of the 2020 election. And that was 65%. So when you put that in context, there's a lot. When you hear where that black vote is the significant swing vote, particularly the black men vote, it's very crucial that both parties listen at this time. What I'm having a problem with is the comedic pandering that I'm seeing from both sides. And I'm not just saying, okay, well, because I think it's a concerted effort, but the problem that I have is the Democrats know they're always going to get the black vote. Don't get me wrong, because we're mostly aligned with democratic values or whatnot. So it is that they claim to think it is. But the problem that I've always had is that, and I think it's something that we need to touch on, is that the black vote was always conservative. I don't know where, and this is where I always ask them, I wish he was on panel soon, is where did that change? Because the black vote it was always aligned with conservative values. Somewhere along the lines, it changed, and it must have switched around maybe the 50s, going into the 60s when we started having the civil rights movements or whatnot. But yeah, it's very
for sure.
Do you even know when that was yourself,
Venkat? Around the Voting Rights Act. That's around the time when Republicans were the ones that were defending what, the progressive movement and stuff like that. It was completely reversed. And once the Democrats, which were mostly racist people in that party, once they got annoyed with their party taking a different turn and agenda, they jumped ship from the Democrats to the Republicans. And ever since then, that's the Republican Party we've known.
And that's the sad
part. But before that was the party of Lincoln, where we were freeing slaves and doing things of that nature. But
right, and then in that time period or era, it seems like, and this is where I also want to figure out, because I think there's so much research that needs to go into this. Somewhere along that lines, the black values that we used to cherish, like going to church or being more religious or having a nuclear family, that took a turn somehow. And for some reason the pandering just keep coming in left, right, and center, and it's been the pandering ever since. And I think that's the main concerted problem I've had with either parties. Like, they seem to just pander when it comes to election. Oh, we're just gonna go in a designated area where we think the black people might go to, or maybe I might go to a church and shook and jive and hallelujah myself way through two things, and they give me the vote. It's like, it's like,
true. That's very true what you say.
But can you come up with something more original now? Like that's the issue that both are going to face this election time. I mean, the main push from the last one was, okay, well, we were going through the pandemic, many people are dying, and it affected mostly who? The pandemic mostly affected the Black community the most, because that's where
Right.
most deaths came from. So there was a concerted push. You're gonna keep hearing me say concerted, because it had not been everybody going, wait a minute now. If most of the effects of COVID is coming from the Black community, and we have most of the pre-existing conditions, clearly there's an issue here that nobody wants to take up, and that's the problem. Is that they only seem to be benefited only themselves, the politicians, that is. So, of course, what did they do? Oh, you guys have to go. You got to get the shots. Mind you, most Black people were like, hell no. Did you not learn from history when you guys came into our community and gave us all sort of like random immunization stuff, and it ended up killing us, or we end up getting herpes, or we end up getting all these random crap that we could never get rid of? So you have to understand the historic issues in the Black community and why we're not so trustworthy of politicians. And when they come around doing the most and in a concerted way, where they're like, oh, well, vote for me and you're gonna get this, and then 6 months to a year to 5 years later, it's like, oh, I said that, oh, it's gonna come the next time around. It's like, you gotta understand where people are like, enough is enough. Who do we trust? And that's why you see a lot of Black people are going to be pivoting towards Trump, which is so dangerous to me, because it's like, okay, so if the Democrats weren't doing anything for me before, why don't I just pick somebody like Trump, who says he has my back, who says he's going to give me this, or say he's going to give me blah, blah, blah. So I might as well just pick him, because what's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen is you don't know. That's the issue. And so it's like, okay, so then and again, I implore everyone, your civic duty is to vote, but your civic duty also is to do your own research. It's not for propaganda to then quell you to go vote for this person because he's Democrat. No, vote for them and vote for the person because, again, what are they doing for your community? What is it what you need them to do for your community? Is it community outreach? Do you need them to build more community centers? Do you need them to help put more after school programs, or help bring, like something that would be significant for you and that's detrimental cause? That's why you're voting. Don't vote because your mom and dad voted for that person. That's not how it should be. It should be that you're doing your own, vested interest in the candidates that's running, or in your local issues. That's where I think a lot of times we're like, oh, we're too busy. Or when it comes to voting day, they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to go because I need to take time off from work. No, your civic duty is to know the values of why you're voting and the institution that this country is built upon, and vote on that aspect. It's very troubling, and I keep saying, and MD's saying the same thing too. A lot of people are, and even in that piece that you saw, when they ask who here is gonna be voting, notice 2 people didn't put up their hands. The reason why is because at the end of it all, it comes down to the day of vote. Are you going to go into the booth? Is somebody going to push you? Is somebody going to say, Van Cat, Ricardo, go vote today? And you're going to be like, all right, let me just go vote. Or you're going to be like, it's going to be the same old. They ain't going to do nothing. They ain't going to do S for my community. That's where we're at. And so I need the Democratic Party, if they want the Black vote, to now do the due diligence of going into the inner cores of these Black communities. Not just the church or just a nice looking neighborhood that you think Black people are at, but go into the in-depth communities where they're facing a lot of issues, like social issues, like housing issues, like kids that don't have food to eat issues, like the schools that they're about to shut down. Like, for instance, in Broward County, they're about to close down a whole bunch of schools because it's a low drop in terms of, people, like kids going to school. There is certain causes that I need the Black community to be pushing these so-called politicians that are conveniently coming to shook and jive in churches, or showing up at community events that they think we need them to be at, and then they just disappear and you never see them again. That's where we need to be focusing the main push at, and make sure that we're holding their foot to the fire and saying, hey, you promised this, make sure you when we give you our votes, you follow up on that, because that's what we need in our community. We don't need you to give us word verments and whatnot. We don't need that. We need you to say, you're going to build this community center in 2 years' time. We need to see it done by October 2027. Stuff like that. But I digress. We could be wrong. Oh, I
No,
agree.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying there. I mean, it makes perfect sense. You just can't be a part-time. You can't be part-time campaigning to the black community, and you see what they do with the Latino community. They're just all over, both the Republicans and the Democrats, all over the Latino community. And the Latino vote is a big decider for Florida, which is was a swing state. I don't know if it's going to swing this year. I don't know.
It might.
I don't know.
Bring it hit. We'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah, but I really wish that it's funny how like every election, like that year, and especially the last 2 months of the election year, go leading into the election, people are like complaining about the choices they have, and then they're complaining about, well, they're not going to represent me, and they're going to. Well, the time for that talk was like months and years ago when they
Right.
did those primaries to figure out who the hell is the nominee. And like you just never see those same casting characters that are talking about I'm an undecided voter, or they got to do something to earn my vote, and I need to see something. I need to see that. Whatever, man. Donald Trump and Joe Biden, there's nothing they're gonna show you from now to November that we don't know already. They ain't. It's an old, scratched up record that's been overplayed, and this is not a person that came out of nowhere, and we don't know anything about them. They have no backstory or nothing. They're thoroughly known in pop culture, in the United States, in politics. There's everything that is documentaries, there's books, there's films on them. So there's no way anybody is undecided for these. We just had the last election with the same two people. So
Yeah.
this should be the easiest, most cut dry. Nobody should be like on the 11th hour. I'm holding out on that. I'm holding up my vote. Like, what is going on here? So I really hate that about the American public. The not taking the accountability for the mess you have. It's so easy for the politician is just a vessel, and they just do what you allow them to do. You think Donald Trump would be doing some of these things if you didn't know through all these polls and whatnot what people are thinking? He knows like what he could push through those polls and the opinion polls that they have. So he just goes on with these things. He's not going to get any kind of retribution or any price to pay. And we just stand there as a public, whether you're for him or not for him. Because there are people that are for Donald Trump, and they're like, they don't like certain aspects. But you're condoning the behavior, so they're just going to do whatever. But you need to hold these bastards accountable.
And that's the
Go ahead.
issue. We're not doing enough to hold their feet to the fire accountable. I mean, some people try, but you have the bad behavioral classmates of the Marjorie Green Taylors or the Matt Gaetz. And well, Matt Gaetz have kind of behaved himself lately, so it's not mostly him anymore. But because he's facing a lot of probes going forward. But the Marjorie Taylor Greens that are so emboldened now to speak and say a whole bunch of gibberish and nonsense that don't make no sense. Who, like the one thing where she said last week something about who was a convicted person was Jesus, and he's my Lord and Savior. So I'm like,
that is so embarrassing.
what are you talking about? Like, this is the kind of foolishness that people are condoning and not realizing that it's fodder. It's fodder. Is that we're supposed to say, not father, but fodder, and jokey, up until the point where it becomes serious. When you're like, wait a minute, it's been jokes this whole time, but when it comes to serious values and issues that face me, they can't help me now. So what is the point of me go and getting all angry after the fact? And this is why every week you hear me come up here, I'm just going to stress the same thing. It's your civic duty as an American citizen who is able to vote, not a permanent resident, but only citizens are allowed to vote, not even nationals. Again, American citizens who have the option to vote, you have no excuse not to go into that booth and vote on November the 14th of this year. Whatever you're choosing to vote for, there's a whole plethora of things that they give you on a, I think it's a, what do you call those? Those big old placemaker cards, or the ballot vote thing that they give you that they submit to you in the mail. I don't know if
Oh
they're doing
yeah,
that.
yeah, 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 yeah. I've
They
gotten
give you,
those.
they give you all those in an envelope, right? On the back of it, it gives you, I don't know if it's on the back anymore or how because they changed up a whole bunch of stuff since the previous election. But they give you a whole bunch of list of things like, do you wanna sign off on marijuana being legal in the state of Florida, or do you think so? They give you a whole bunch of stuff. So there's no excuse. There is like Local 10 that have like reporters that literally break down the ballot issues that will face you in the state of Florida, as well as national wise. And they give you like a specific day, like the day before the election or the weekend. And they say, this is what this is talking about. This is where they say this is yes or no. No one has no excuse anymore to be like, well, I don't know what this election is about. You know plenty. You know a lot. So don't disservice yourself by being out in the cast out section of saying, oh, well, I'm not going to vote because they're not going to help me. You don't know that. Again, if most people were holding these politicians to the fire, if you are a single parent or a parent that's struggling now to have financial means to supporting your kid, you would have known the child tax credit benefit that the Republicans refused to sign back into law on account of they don't want people to be sitting at home getting free services, social services. This is one of the issues that you guys need to be, going to the election booth and voting for. This is where I need people to step it up and stop complaining after the fact. Don't complain the day after when the results come in and be like, oh, well, I didn't know. You have plenty of time now to do so. Go and look at the issues that are affecting your local community, as well as your state, as well as national wise, and then go from there, make your choice. I don't want to hear it this year, because the last election, I heard a whole bunch of people complain, and I'm like, but you had so much time, just like Van Cat just said. What else are you expecting from these candidates? One said he will grab the woman's vulva from in public, and he's entitled to do so. Where another one said, he's getting old, but he's going to speak gibberish. So what are you expecting? Like at this point, what else are you expecting them to do? Donald Trump is not going to change, other than he's pandering more and more every single time you see him. Whether it be selling the Bible or a keychain, a panty, or a damn hat, he ain't going to change. He's a what's the word I'm looking for here? He is a master merchandising selling grifter. That's all he does.
Oh yeah,
money.
Oh yeah,
grifting off your emotions, and you will continue to do so. Joe Biden is getting old, so cognitively speaking, I know I pretty much predicted what was going to happen last year. But in case you all wanted to hear it again one more time, I feel like Joe is going to go through the election. Everything's going to be fine. Maybe 2 months to 6 months down the line, they're going to say, hey, I think we discovered something with Joe's last neurologist checkup, and he's going to have to be out for a while. And step in who? Miss Vice President Kamala, who will become the first president, the female president of the United States of America. That's how it's going to play out. As much as I hate to say it, but that's literally how it's going. I've said this when TFP started, but y'all could disagree with me when you think.
Yep, and I remember you made that prediction. You were another prophet. We have to say, another prophet amongst men.
Right. So as much as MD predicts, I'm predicting that one. But I'll take that any day over the nonsense of what Donald Trump is feeding in terms of the public, and they're literally believing every nonsense he's saying. It doesn't work like that. The first day I'm going to do a mass deportation, he says. Next thing you know, he's like, I'm going to go get rid of the justices. That's not how the process of this American democracy works. And I'm going to need people to now step into gear and do their homework and do all their vested interests and stop with I'm waiting to see what these candidates are going to do. If you're going to wait, the first thing they need to do, Van Cat, is watch that debate next week. I think it's the 27th, I think, on CNN.
Oh, yeah.
It's I need people to start making their choice from that first debate. Not only are they not going to do this, their usual Donald Trump, that is, where he loves talking over people, they're going to start muting the mic. So as soon as
I love that. I love that.
One person's able to talk, and once your time is up, you don't get to see nothing else. We're going to mute you. Then they're going to hold the candidates to their word. If you're not going to answer that question, it's going to circle back around again, and you won't answer it. So there's a lot of BS that we saw the last election that we're not going to see this time around. I think
no crowd to hype up.
There's a reason because he, which is Donald Trump, always seems to get a rise out of crowds and the jeering and the shouting. We don't got time for that. Answer the damn question, and what are you going to be doing? That would be accountability, like how they did to Beetlejuice, loving what's her name from?
Lauren Boebert.
Right, where they ask you a question and you think you're gonna wing it. It doesn't work like that. Your record is gonna be put out in front of layman terms, in front of the crowd, and it's gonna, if there's a crowd, it's probably just gonna be people in the media circuit. But it's gonna be laid out in layman terms, and you will have to, basically explain what on record have you done and what you're willing to do. So don't get me wrong, Joe will face a lot, but I'm think he'll be able to handle himself. It's the lies from Donald Trump that I'm
right.
How he's
That's very true.
And if he's going to lie and pivot is the other thing, because we need to hold him accountable. That's where I need people to make their decision from now, because that's the first debate. If you can't make up your mind from that debate, there's no point. At this point, I don't know what else to tell y'all. Vote for The Rock, because Dwayne Johnson says he's going to run in 2020, God knows when. 2028 is the next election. So if y'all can make up your mind, don't complain again. Don't complain the day after. It's annoying. It's irritating to me. You have time now. We literally have a lot of time. So, do your vested homework and vote, people. VOTE. Vote.
Yeah. Well said, Ricardo. I couldn't say any better than that. We have Joe Biden, we have Donald Trump, and they're both pretty much riding for the black vote in a major way, and they've been hitting it hard for the last 4 months or so, or even longer, to be honest. So I want to take a look at both candidates individually. I want to look at some of their low moments. I want to look because they are pleading to the black community. Look, I'm good for you. I've always been good for you. And I want to show why the black community is at odds, why the black community is hesitant for both candidates. Like I said earlier, both candidates, they're not spring chickens. They're not the first time coming up. We've seen these guys for decades. So with that comes baggage and a history. So let's take a look. First up, we'll go to Donald Trump.
The new poll shows both President Biden and former President Trump have a problem among black voters. A USA Today and Suffolk University poll in swing states found Biden's support in that group fell 20% in Pennsylvania and 22 points in Michigan. Now, they cited concerns about his age and support for Israel in the conflict in Gaza. Overall, though, Trump was viewed much more negatively than Biden among black voters, by a 3-to-1 margin in Michigan and a 5-to-1 margin in Pennsylvania. Almost 2/3 of respondents said Trump's hush money conviction made them less likely to vote for him.
Former President Donald Trump in Michigan making a direct appeal to black voters in the heart of Detroit, a Democratic stronghold.
We've done more for, and I say this, I say it proudly, more for the black population than any president since Abraham Lincoln. That's a big statement. And crooked Joe Biden has done nothing for you except talk.
His campaign announcing a Black Americans for Trump coalition, citing endorsement from numerous individuals, including some potential running mates. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, Florida Congressman Byron Donalds, and former HUD Secretary Ben Carson. The Biden campaign blasting Trump's reported comment that Trump's black friends wouldn't be friends with him anymore if he were a racist. In a statement saying Donald Trump thinks the fact that he has many black friends excuses an entire lifetime of denigrating and disrespecting black Americans. But black voters know better.
14,000 apartments in 39 different buildings, all mostly white tenants. That is until the Department of Justice took notice in 1973 and slammed Donald Trump and his father Fred Trump with a lawsuit. Trump management was charged with discriminating against African Americans and breaking federal law. Donald Trump, then just 27, was president of the company. And according to the Justice Department, they even had a secret coding system to do it, a racial code. Here's how.
Some of the applications were marked with a C, which we learned that it meant colored, so that the prospective tenants who had come in were noted to be colored.
Yes, you heard her right. The Department of Justice alleged applications submitted by prospective African American renters were designated with a secret code, such as C for colored, to indicate a black person was looking to rent. Even so, the Trump family maintained they never discriminated based on color, but were instead trying to avoid renting to people on welfare. 2 years later, in 1975, Trump and his father settled the case, agreeing not to discriminate against anyone. They also promised to advertise in publications aimed at minorities, familiarize themselves with the details of the Fair Housing Act, and notify civil rights groups of apartment vacancies. The Department of Justice claimed victory, but the Trumps never admitted any wrongdoing, reportedly noting the settlement was in no way an admission of a violation.
You better believe that I hate the people that took this girl and raped her brutally. You better believe it. And it's more than anger, it's hatred. And I want society to hate them.
And yet one Manhattan resident's obsession with the case continues to this day. Just weeks after the crime was committed in 1989, Donald Trump took out a full-page ad in 4 New York newspapers advocating the return of the death penalty. And when the city awarded the men a settlement in 2014, Trump wrote an editorial in the Daily News calling the settlement a disgrace. And now, even now, as a presidential nominee for the Republican Party, Trump hasn't allowed science or evidence to change his initial reaction to the case. Just this week, Trump said he still considers the men, again, exonerated by the criminal justice system and by DNA scientific evidence, guilty, issuing a statement saying, quote, they admitted they were guilty. The police doing the original investigation say they were guilty. The fact that case was settled with so much evidence against them is outrageous. The woman so badly injured will never be the same.
More than a year ago, the president's Hawaii birth certificate was released. Back then, Trump saying this.
Today, I'm very proud of myself. Our president has finally released a birth certificate.
But late today, Trump doubling down.
A lot of people do not think it was an authentic certificate.
How can you say that if this...
You won't report it, Wolf, but many people do not think it was authentic.
You see the birth announcement back in 1961. The Honolulu. Listen to me, Donald. Honolulu. Can I ask the question?
Defending Obama.
Donald, you're beginning to sound a little ridiculous. I have to tell you.
You are, Wolf.
When conservative commentator George Will was asked on ABC's This Week why Romney keeps pairing up with Trump,
the cost of appearing with this bloviating ignoramus is obvious, it seems to me.
This is on the Today Show in 2011.
You are not allowed to be a president if you're not born in this country. He may not have been born in this country.
When the White House made the president's birth certificate public 2 weeks later, Trump questioned if the document was real. And even as a presidential candidate, in January of this year, Trump refused to acknowledge the president was indeed born in Hawaii.
Was he a natural-born citizen?
Who knows? Who knows? Who cares right now?
Today, clearly, Hillary Clinton cared, even before Trump spoke.
For 5 years, he has led the birther movement to delegitimize our first black president. His campaign was founded on this outrageous lie. There is no erasing it in history.
Donald Trump visited a black church, portrayed crime as out of control, and bashed immigrants.
We're going to seal the border and we're going to stop the invasion of your jobs and the invasion of our country. It's an invasion of your jobs. They are taking away your jobs when they pour in. Crime is most rampant right here and in African American communities, and more people see me and they say, sir, we want protection. We want police to protect us. We don't want to get robbed and mugged and beat up or killed because we want to walk across the street to buy a loaf of bread.
But the latest data shows that violent crime in Detroit has dropped to its lowest level in 50 years. Also, despite Trump campaign claims that the church was filled with black worshipers, video of the event shows the church crowd was mostly white.
He rented a church. He bussed in people who are wearing not church clothes, but rally clothes. They are obviously not locals. They are obviously not attendees. You don't have to do that if you have support. And then he told a series of preposterous lies. Detroit has recovered this year, is having a magnificent turnaround. First population growth in half a century. Lowest number of homicides in half a century. That notorious derelict train station, I broke into it about 10 years ago to tour the ruins of the train station, and it was a tragic thing. It's just been restored beautifully, and it's about to reopen. Detroit is now a magnet for attracting new artists. It is a great American turnaround story. So when you have to tell so many lies, when you have to bus in people, it tells me you probably don't have a lot of indigenous support in that town.
But of course, the Trump campaign folks insisted that the inner city black church support for him was overwhelming.
Biden's not doing anything like that. Look at the contrast of just this weekend. You got Donald Trump in Detroit talking to 8,000 people, and then at a black church, of course.
8,000 people? Again, here is the video. Local authorities estimated the crowd at 200. So why would the Trump campaign lie? Why would Donald Trump lie? There is a theme that runs through all of this. Donald Trump and his followers often seem to have no moral or ethical core. They can say whatever they want, do whatever they want, because it's all for the greater good of getting Donald Trump elected. And once Trump is in power, people of faith will be rewarded.
All right, there we go. Donald Trump says a lot of wild and ridiculous things. And I don't know, man. I don't know how you can court some people and insult them at the same time. He doesn't want people to have to get hit over the head and afraid to cross the street to buy a loaf of bread because of so much crime in the area. I mean, I don't even know where he made that up from. But this guy, I mean, the bar is so low. It is so low. Ricardo, what did you think about that piece there?
I mean, I'm not even the least bit surprised by the diatribe he spews in regards to the facts that he's trying to state or the pandering that he's doing. I've noticed a trend, and the video piece did bring it up, is that you notice that a lot of times when it comes to anything related to Trump now, I tend to be putting a lot of things on the microscope with him, because even that event, you said it sounded like he was trying to do a black church event, which clearly it was not. If you look closely, again, we have eyes. There's no alternative facts here. There's nothing that you could blind us with. We're not colorblind. I know some people are, but you can't not help but notice that there was a lot of significant white people. And not only that, if you are really somebody that knows black churches well, if you really were smart, you would have gotten, because these look like all paid Trump supporters. But if you go to a black church, they usually are well-dressed, have the hats that are like those English women that wears those designated hats that are so distinguished. You couldn't get those people. You paid for these people to come in, and you think we were going to believe that? Donald Trump, come on, man, you could do better. Like, really, this is what we're doing. But again, I digress. I need people to focus on stuff like this, where he, from the beginning, from the onslaught of him coming in, there was a whole bunch of facts that came about regarding him, and how he was so discriminatory when it came to like the fact that he had in New York, a building that him and his dad owned, and they were never letting in any black people. Had it not been for the Department of stepping in and doing their investigation, he would not have changed the policy, because there's fair housing, the Fair Housing
Exactly.
Act, all of that. But then they still didn't admit guilt. And that's the other problem that I have with this. The second issue that I've had in the piece was the whole birther movement thing. Again, it is the duty of any president that is running to give up not only their birth certificate, but any financial facts, anything that would be of detriment to them running. Had it been like your health, and when I mean they put everything under a microscope, they literally look at every exact detailment of what you're running for before you even get to that spot. Do you really think Donald Trump or President Obama went to that great lengths to not have disclosed his birth certificate? And you literally went for an entire year, if not two, going on and on, even though they gave facts to state this man was born here. He was born to
It was
natural.
5 years. It was 5 years.
It was ridiculous, man. I never forgot that. That was something that always stuck to me. If Black people are not holding that back of their head, something's clearly wrong. That was so asinine, and it was so despicable on his part to have literally ran this whole birther cause thing, even at the detriment of the media telling him, hey, sir, like, listen, hey, we're like, and they should have literally hold him to the fire with it, because he kept getting away with it. He just kept going, oh, I don't care. Who cares? Notice he says certain things like, who cares, right? Because he wants you to forget that it's actual facts. You cannot alternative facts stuff when it's real. A birth certificate was presented. If that was the issue, remember, McCain wasn't really born in the U.S. either. He was born in the Panama Canal Zone, which was at the time a U.S., what would we call that, MD? It would be because we built the canal. So technically you wouldn't be a U.S. citizen, but you technically are. So that was an issue. But then again, he never focused on that. It was all about, oh, Obama has a Muslim name and he has such and such. He cannot be an American. Sir, you do realize he was the first, and even then that still wasn't good enough for you. The first African-American president who happens to be half Black and half white, mostly looking Black. And that still wasn't good enough for you. And then you add the Central Park 5, which shows that there was scientific and circumstantial evidence presented. And he still, till this very day, still went on a diatribe of, oh, they should all be killed, they should all be this. Sir, facts was presented to you. That's my problem with this man, is that you give facts and he still feel the need to spill diatribe and people believe it. Like, that's not how this works. This is where we have a problem for my Black people that are out there. If you're going to pick this man, do realize what he is for. This is what he is. Maya Angelou says this famous quote again, for the first time I present myself to you, believe it, because this is how the person is. He's not going to change. He is not going to change. If you didn't know who he was before, and he presents himself to you, and you still don't think that's it, you will never know him. You'll never ever know Donald Trump. So again, I cannot stress this enough. Like Vanket said in the top part of the show, what else are you looking for from this man? This man despicably spoke bad of a Gold Star member military Muslim man the first time he came around. The same man spoke about grabbing a woman's crotch and getting away with murder because he could do it. This is all white privilege and all these things that he could state, but a regular person like me and you could never do. And again, not too long ago, I think a couple weeks ago, lest we forget, was convicted of 34 counts. If he could get on the ballot, because he's now a presumptive nominee, if he could get to be a nominee for the Republican Party, going forward, any convicted person who has a record should be allowed to be employed without being asked about their convicted record. And that's just what I'm going to leave it at. But I digress. Vote for who you want to vote for, but remember these things when they're presented as facts to you, and don't act like you're brand new when the time comes when he shows his true color.
All right, thanks, Ricardo. MD, what are your thoughts on the Donald Trump piece we just saw, and any takeaways from that?
First of all, let me say peace. Hey, Venkat, I apologize, man. Like I said, this is my only day off. I've been ripping and running all day, and I totally forgot, bro. I deserve to be reprimanded in some way, shape, or form.
It's all good.
In regards to that matter.
You should be.
Because I actually got an alarm set for 6:30 for TFP, and it went off. I said, "Oh, man!" And so that's what's up with that. But for this brief little moment that I do have, I came up at an opportune time. Listen, folks, the event that he held in Detroit this weekend, it was very covert. What do I mean by that? Meaning, in regards to the church event, he also had the Turning Point event, right? prior to him speaking at the Turning Point event, there was posts with lineups of people that was supposed to be there. Nick Fuentes was one of those people. When there start being negative aspects to social media in regards to that, he backslid, so to speak. Even to the point where some way, shape, or form, whether it was Charlie Kirk or Trump, by the behest of Trump, Nick Fuentes was not allowed at the Turning Point event in Detroit. And Nick Fuentes became upset about that. So he created his own event in Detroit the same weekend called, what was it called? America First PAC conference. They had set up all these venues, and somehow or another the venues got shut down. Now, Nick Fuentes is now upset with Donald Trump because he believes he bent the knee to whatever higher ups that he believes that there is. Again, we know he had contact with Trump based on the fact that Trump listed him originally as one of the people that was supposed to speak. Who was also at that event with Nick Fuentes? David Duke, the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. Listen, folks, if you can't see the play, I don't know what else to tell you at this point. I don't know what else to tell you, people. He's playing the populist mode to where he's telling you whatever you want to hear at this point, including black folks, including white supremacists, including pro-Israel, including anti-Israel, including pro-immigration, anti-immigration, well, at first it was anti-abortion. Now it's somehow by the states, pro-abortion.
He's
Listen,
also magically pro TikTok.
Hey, all of a sudden, hey, I got a TikTok page now. Listen, man, this is fascism, populism 101. Get the ear of the people to make them feel good in order to gain a nationalistic objective. Like we can't be this stupid in 2024. We cannot be this stupid. Put the policy aside, because at this point, again, it's not about policy. It's literally about the life of the process of democracy in this country. Now, if you don't like that, then maybe you vote for Trump. But if at all sense of the matter, if you understand the philosophy of democracy when it comes to this country, there ain't no way in shape or form you can vote for a person like Trump. No way, shape, or form. And that's just what it is. Going back through his history with anti-black rhetoric, like what are we talking about? Now, of course, people can have a change of heart over a course of time. No doubt. But when you're in this type of position, you play the fool in terms of how ever the cards are dealt. And with Trump, he's getting a hand here, a hand there by many different philosophers. And he's going to run with him because he wants to get back into the office of the presidency. So at some point in time, you have to understand, like, okay, where does my position lie? Not more or less with the policies. The policies is always important. That's what politics is. We're a policy based society when it comes to government. But when you have somebody that's overtly doing something under the auspices of trying to acquiesce to the what he would think is the masses, then we got a problem. That's just what it is. So if you want to roll with that, hey, be my guest. Me personally, I'm not. And I don't, and the way it's looking, even from the outside looking in, I don't think the majority of the country is either. But hey, again, who am I?
All right, thanks, MD. So we've spoken about Donald Trump. So now we need to take a look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden, again, just like I guess a lot of Democrats, they feel like it's a automatic foregone conclusion that they're going to get the black vote. And on top of that, they have a lazy attitude. That's what it feels. That's how it comes off. And even in their own words, at sometimes you could hear it, you could feel it. So Joe Biden, as we did with Trump, let's take a look at Biden's not so great moments as he tries to appeal to the black community.
In 2020, President Joe Biden won Michigan by more than 150,000 votes. Nationwide, over 90% of black voters chose Biden in 2020. But the 2024 race in Michigan is close. 538's polling averages showing Trump and Biden nearly tied as of this month. President Biden, meanwhile,
look at what they value and look at their budget and what they're proposing. Romney wants to he said in the first 100 days, he's going to let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
We must take back the streets. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I want to ask, what made them do this? They must be taken off the street. That's number one. There's a consensus on that. Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now. And Madam President, we have predators on our streets that society has, in fact, in part because of its neglect, created. Again, it does not mean because we created them that we somehow forgive them or do not take them out of society to protect my family and yours from them. They are beyond the pale, many of those people. Beyond the pale. And it's a sad commentary on society. We have no choice but to take them out of society. And the truth is, we don't very well know how to rehabilitate them at that point. That's the sad truth. I'm the guy that said, rehabilitation, when it occurs, we don't understand it and notice it. And even when we notice it and we know it occurs, we don't know why. So you cannot make rehabilitation a condition for release. That's why in our system, there's the federal system, you serve 85% of your time. It's a shame, but we don't know how to rehabilitate. But there is a consensus, and I will cease. A, we must make the streets safer. I don't care why someone is a malfactor in society. I don't care why someone is antisocial. I don't care why they've become a sociopath. We have an obligation to cordon them off from the rest of society, try to help them, try to change their behavior. That's why we do in this bill. We have drug treatment and we have other treatments to try to deal with it. But they are in jail, away from my mother, your husband, our families. But we would be absolutely stupid as a society if we didn't recognize the condition that nurtured those folks still exist. And we must deal with that.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see.
Take a look at my record, man. I extended the voting rights 25 years. I have a record that is second to none. The NAACP has endorsed me every time I've run. Come on. Take a look at the record.
I'm ready to go.
With his long record facing a new look under the spotlight of the 2020 campaign.
Gentlemen and ladies of the Senate.
One chapter receiving fresh scrutiny comes from his earliest years in the Senate, when he strongly opposed mandatory school busing. It was designed to achieve integration and a more equitable education. It was the mid-1970s. Biden favored desegregation, but not through busing. What's less known is how he followed the lead of some of the Senate's most fervent segregationists. In a series of never-before-published letters reviewed by CNN, the strength of Biden's opposition to busing comes into sharper focus. On March 25, 1977, Biden wrote, "My bill strikes at the heart of the injustice of court-ordered busing. It prohibits the federal courts from disrupting our educational system." Biden sought and received support from Mississippi Senator James Eastland, the Democratic chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and a leading symbol of Southern resistance to desegregation. He frequently spoke of blacks as, quote, an inferior race. Biden reflected on that era earlier this year.
They're a bunch of racists. There was, James O. Eastland of Mississippi, Strom Thurmond, and so on. There were 9 guys who were in the caucus that were, I ran against in the civil rights movement.
But he did not say that Eastland and others were partners on several of Biden's anti-busing bills. On June 30th, 1977, Biden wrote, "Dear Mr. Chairman, I want you to know that I very much appreciate your help during this week's committee meeting in attempting to bring my anti-busing legislation to a vote." Then in 1978, Biden again asked Eastland to put his anti-busing bill before the full Senate, writing, "Your participation in floor debate would be welcome."
I do not believe you are a racist. And I agree with you when you commit yourself to the importance of finding common ground. But I also believe, and it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of 2 United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing. And, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me. So I will tell you that on this subject, it cannot be an intellectual debate among Democrats. We have to take it seriously. We have to act swiftly. Do you agree today that you were wrong to oppose busing in America then?
No.
Do you agree?
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I opposed.
Well, there was a failure of states to integrate public schools in America. I was part of the second class to integrate Berkeley, California public schools almost 2 decades after Brown v. Board of Education.
Because your city council made that decision. It was a local decision. So that's where the federal
government must step in. That's why we have the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. That's why we need to pass the Equality Act. That's why we need to pass the ERA, because there are moments in history where states fail to preserve the civil rights of all people.
4 decades later, after building a strong civil rights record, Biden stands by his opposition to busing, but warrants explanation.
Those letters I find somewhat surprising given Senator Biden's or Vice President Biden's current position and potential candidacy for the presidency and his position as a liberal. Those are issues that he's obviously going to have to answer for.
You said surprising. Surprising in what way?
Well, the fact that he would solicit the support of staunch segregationists, James Eastland as well as Jesse Helms, introducing legislation as opposing busing at that time.
And you also took to the streets to prove that most folks have no idea the racist comments, sometimes virulently racist comments Joe Biden has made over the years.
This person, he referred to Barack Obama as the first mainstream African-American that is articulate and bright and clean, who is articulate and bright and clean and bright and clean. Scale from 1 to 10.
That's racist as It's like a 10. 20.
20. Okay, we're breaking the scale.
Broke the scale. You said rate it?
1 to 10.
9.
Okay, so
I'd say 9. Definitely 9.
Who do you guys think said the comment about Barack Obama, saying he was the first
Trump?
Trump? Okay, what do you think?
Probably him.
I hope it wasn't Donald Trump. I like it too much. When it came to articulate and bright and clean, who do you think said that if you were to guess? I know you guys aren't from the United States, but if you were to guess.
Trump. I don't know.
It was Joe Biden.
No.
It's a real quote.
No.
It was Joe Biden.
Joe Biden? Really?
Guys, I'm sorry. Joe Biden said that. It's a real quote.
Joe Biden again. No.
I swear.
What?
Joe Biden. Those are real quotes from Joe Biden.
We knew that was racist. We in inflation right now. Racist ass. We didn't want you anyway. Kamala racist too. She liked the more black people than any other DA that was on the stand. And that's facts.
It's Joe Biden.
Yeah, so there you go. Wow.
Did you know that?
I didn't.
Is that shocking?
It's very shocking.
All right, we're back. So, MD, in that piece, what stood out to you? What did you ascertain?
I mean, pretty much information that we already knew about Pike. You know what I mean? He comes up under the Dixiecrat style of the Democratic Party. It's already a known fact. Strom Thurmond was one of the most egregious racists within government of all time. It's a known fact. Now, I will say this. In terms of the flow of the ideology that Joe Biden has, I don't see much of a change. What has changed is the society. And you know, with the society goes the flow of the motion of the ideology of the Democratic Party. That's for any Democrat, if you ask me. So, I mean, again, to make these arguments it's non sequitur in terms of how we view what the policies are. You know what I'm saying? 94 crime bill. We always talk about 94 crime bill. If you come to an argument when it comes to Biden and Trump, and then you bring up the 94 crime bill, like I'm gonna just make your point null and void because it's non sequitur to the fact of what the reality of the policies are today. That's just a fact. Now you can make that argument, and then I would turn around and ask you, well, how does that affect? How does the 94 crime bill affect us today? And most of the time, you won't get an answer. Now you would hear some people saying, well, you know, we had these people that grew up with fathers that were in prison at that particular time. Okay, cool. I'm an individualist. I'm not going to take any effect from another person and think of it as a direct impact to the life that you choose to have once you're an adult. That's just what it is. Joe Biden is a horrible policymaker, in my opinion. Horrible. He's an establishment Democrat. You can give him as much flack when it comes to corporatism and all that you can give Trump. I have the ability to make that argument. When it comes to the social construct of what the policies are, that's when you start to see a separation. Most people can't shy away from the already known fact. Once you start to do that, then you start to see the reality of how we live today in 2024. That's what you got to vote on at the end of the day. I couldn't vote in 1994. I just couldn't do it. More or less, I wasn't in Delaware, so he wasn't representing me as a Georgian. Again, we have to take things in consideration when we view what the reality is. The reality right now, Donald Trump is an authoritarian. Biden is not. So I'm gonna go with the one that ain't.
All right. Thanks, MD, for that. And Ricardo, what's your take on this?
I'm not the least bit surprised by the piece in terms of what was demonstrated regarding Biden. We call it the Uncle Joe effect. He's always been that way. And the shocking part is that a lot of people didn't know that he's like that. I tend to forget myself that he was also and so he couldn't escape when it came to like the policies that he enacted. And it wasn't until Kamala called him out on the debate stage that I saw him frazzled by the memory of it, especially the Busing Act. I think pause when that came about. For her, remember, she was affected by that because she again stated she was the second class of people that were bused in her state. there's certain policies that I think negatively affected the Black community, and it was on account of Joe Biden's hands and signature and things that he as a senator was able to enact. I think he can't escape that, but I think as he matured over the years, I think he had to let go of the Dixiecrat stance, and you slowly started to see him change. It's funny though that looking back at it, I don't know how Obama picked him as the vice president. I still to this very day didn't understand.
Well, I think what happened, what I just wanted to say real quick. So you made that comment about Kamala having him razzled on the stage, and you see he picked her. Is the same reason why Obama picked Joe Biden, because during the debates in 2008, Joe Biden was one that was really giving Obama a run for his money on the stage. So I think that was something. He's like, hey, you know, that he's pretty tough. I got to respect that, and tapped Joe Biden. Also because of experience, you know, that was the knock on Obama, lack of experience. He was so new and so young. So I think that's what happened there.
Hey, Venkat, real quick, because I'm about to get ready to go. Because I got to pack up and head back to the truck. Let me say this one thing. I agree with Biden opposing bus. Here's why. On the outside looking in, from a social standpoint, we look at busing as helping within low income communities and helping them divide as far as desegregation of schools. Me personally, all I looked at it at, and you know, I've done extensive research on the busing programs in America. All it literally did was pick crab out of the barrel and pluck them somewhere else. That's all it did. Through federal money. So, I mean, there's an argument to be had. Now, do I believe Kamala Harris smoked him that night? She smoked him. Because I don't think he was willing. He was trying to shield himself from not looking racially awkward. You know what I'm saying? But if he would have withheld his stance and articulated it to his standpoint of his ideology, I wouldn't see no problem with it. Because literally that's what busing was. Like it was damn near like a lottery system. Plucking a couple of unfortunate youths out of one neighborhood, putting them into a good neighborhood, giving them a better education, while leaving the other crabs in the barrel. That's all it was. So, you know, with that being said, if y'all still on in like 10, 15 minutes, I'll hop right back in.
No problem. We got you.
All right, MD.
Does anybody have have an opposing view about that?
I mean, in the same length of breath, you kind of, if you look at it in some ways, it was prior to that of the busing initiative taking place. Do you feel like there was any other outlets for Black kids in general to be able to get into the schools, the school zones that they because I'm sure red zoning at that point to get into certain schools with the discriminatory laws that they had in place where they were like, I don't want this to come into this school because so and so we're gonna bring about these riffraffs that don't need to be here. So I think that was like some breakthrough that whole designation of why not open it up for everybody to come in as opposed to just like keeping it closed. So that's where I'm kind of like, it was in some sense a good thing for them to start the busing thing, but you're saying no, it's not because it was just
because it's manufactured. That's why. During the 50s and the 60s, it was plenty of Black people that lived in white neighborhoods. They just couldn't access the schools because it was racially segregated. So as a result, you choose to have a busing program to manufacture an optic of pushing desegregation forward. That's not right.
So MD,
like your neighborhood is your neighborhood. Why not put those resources into creating a better system educationally in that neighborhood?
Maybe the money was just never going to be there for that. And what is the alternative? They probably looked at it like, hey, if we can save a handful, it's better than no hands. You know what I mean? Like, what is the option? Because it clearly helped people. Ice Cube was a part of the busing system. That helped him. Kamala is a part of the busing system. So if that wasn't there, where would they be today? You know, because it doesn't look like they were really involved in trying to solve black issues. They were sitting on their hands all the time. So at least that was something. Not the greatest, but it was something.
Yep.
So basically, what you just said, Venkat, is we gonna pick out of the Royal Rumble lottery bingo thingamajigger, and we gonna choose who lives or dies, basically.
We're doing money in the bank. We're doing money in the bank, and we're cashing in on WrestleMania. That's what we're doing. Only one person can get that cash in. That's what we're doing. And it
Wow,
worked great for
that's
Damian
crazy
Priest.
coming from you, Venkat. That is crazy coming from you. Hey, all right, y'all, man. Peace.
All right. Continue, Ricardo. You were saying on the piece.
Yeah, so I mean, it's something that he couldn't escape. You know, it's something that it eventually would have caught up to him that this is how Joe was. What I have yet, I mean, I don't know if you've heard him recant or say I apologize. I think I've heard him say he's apologized regarding what has taken place on his public records for the amount of years that he was in the Senate for. So, I mean, can you get redemption in terms of your previous behavior? I'm sure you can if you're made accountable and you take accountability into action.
And you're genuine about your apology.
Right, and not two-faced or just doing it because people force you to do it. That's where over time people will have to maybe judge him on that aspect. Like, what have you done since to um rectify that problem that you have put in place? What have you done to alleviate the stresses that you create from these bills that you passed and things that have put more black men in prison and all of that stuff that's on your record? That's where I think the Democratic Party will have to go into this election and state, hey, over time, this is what Joe has done. This is what he's made possible to help alleviate the stresses of what he has done to the black community. Things like that is where accountability comes into play here. If he can do that, I'm sure there could be redemption for him. But it's very tough. It's very hard hearing the rhetoric that has been spewed from him over time. It's not a good look by any accounts. And that's where it's so tough when it comes to politics, because when you hear somebody rehash something that you've heard them say, it's like, how do you fix that? Like, how do you take into account that and not go forward and be like, well, you did say this once. Can you, by all accounts, still be thinking this way even in your old age? Which more than likely, he could still be doing. But it's kind of like, show me what have you done since to fix that issue, and then maybe by chance I might be able to like change my outlook of how you've been. And I think that's the main issue that some black voters have. Don't get me wrong, it's the same issue they have with Kamala as well. We forget her record is not that squeaky clean either. She's put more black men in prison in her state as a state prosecutor than most people could even state that they've run on. So this whole idea of, oh, I'm black and I went to a HBCU and all that means little or nothing when your public record shows that, and that's the issue she's going to also face. At the same length and breadth, if she can prove or show, hey, this I've done since to curtail the issue that I have put in place, this is what I've done since to the issue is brought to my community, seeing that I now 1 minute I'm black and the next minute I'm half Hindu or half whatever. This is what they will run on, and I think over time people have to see that if they push that narrative, it should be able to work. But again, it's not up to me or you, Vancaf. Remember, black voters are not monolith. We're not all thinking the same. Every issue affects us differently at the same length of breath. What I might be going by is what, the taxes and all of that I face in terms of inflation and whatnot with a nuclear family, compared to maybe you that's probably worrying about the gas prices or how your grocery merchandise has shrunk over time since the pandemic. So there's certain instances where I feel the Democratic Party, since it's such a lazy vote, which you will always hear, is that they think, oh, I got it, even though they say so, they're always going to vote for us. Yes, but at the same length of breath, that's not always going to be the case. What if it flips this election? What if black people decide, hey, I'm going to give Donald Trump a chance? How would that work going forward for you? How do you curtail that? Because you need the swing vote of the black men, mostly also the black women, because remember, black women, the last election was the ones who turned out and literally drove the man term. So if you can't, for whatever reason, get these voters, you're never going to get an issue. The Latino voters are very flip-floppy. They go based on the whole immigration aspect. So not to say it doesn't affect the black community, but the immigration aspect affects everyone that's coming into this country. But most Latinos, what are you going to be doing? Because you need to draw. There's certain instances, if you remember, not to like battle and go on, but remember when Obama coming in, what did he use? If you remember, he used technologies to his favor. Social media. He used things that were appealing to voters, and thus the young voters came out and vote. Over time, that
Of
helped
course.
I don't see that as like a main drive and push this time around. Yes, we have TikTok. Yes, we have Facebook. Yes, we have all these plethora of social media stuff. But what is the drive, the initiative, the interest that's bringing or luring these people in the vote? I don't see what that is, and that's a problem. Because if you need the votes, what is it that you're using to lure people in? What's the hook and the bait? What are you baiting us with? Make us go, you know what? That's the main thing that's going to get Bankat to vote, or that's the main thing that's going to get Ricardo to vote, or that's the main thing that's going to get MD to vote. I don't see that. That's my problem. And that's a major issue for what both parties need to be focusing on going forward for November. That's where the black voters have a problem with, and that's where they need to fix.
Yeah, I totally get that. That's a great point there. Yeah, I mean, it's we're gonna have to see, because the election is not that far out now. I mean, we're less than 6 months away, and you know, both candidates are reaching hard to the black community, but I feel like we're with Trump, we're trying to make up things. We're trying to deceive and give perception that he has this support. And we hear different stats, different polls about like this spike, and the spike is like 1% or 2%. It's like not a really big deal. And like he's like exploiting it, making it seem grander, as Trump usually always do. You saw what he did with the crowd size of the inauguration, comparing Obama's crowd to his crowd, which is silly. And he's always trying to make what is belonging to him seem like it's a lot more. I mean, he literally got in trouble in court for that. Overinflating the value of his properties and whatnot. So everything is an imaginary fairy tale with this guy. So I mean, so I don't know, man. The choice is very obvious, and like MD was saying, you can't not see this stuff. But this show is about the power of the black vote. Black votes matter, and it's also a celebration of Juneteenth, which tomorrow is the 19th, I believe. So tomorrow is Juneteenth. And yep. So in regards to the holiday, we're gonna look at this video, a good video, a feel good video, as you will. So let's take a look at this in regards to Juneteenth.
Finally tonight, CBS's Steve Hartman goes on the road to visit a Texas home that was once destroyed by hate, but rebuilt with love.
All right. So, very interesting story, a very good, heartwarming story. Ricardo, what did you think about that story and everything that was involved with the Juneteenth and the house and everything else?
Well, she regarded as the grandma Juneteenth because of being a part of the whole the whole push to make it a holiday, but mostly because she was affected by it when she was a young girl. Imagine getting that just cause in the end in your old age, to see them not only build back the home that they destroyed, these so-called racist people, but to see it built not too far off from the actual plot of land that the whole initiative took place on. I think it's a great way of correcting wrongs in this country. There's so much things that, or so many events that took place that were never rectified or never corrected. For one, the Tulsa, Oklahoma Black Wall Street victims will never get that issue fixed, because I think there's only 2 known survivors left. And just recently the court in that state stated that there's no reason to give back the what's the word the when you're giving back them money again, is it the
reparations
money? That to me is sad, because better. You could do better. You could fix the issue. I'm not sure why nobody else is interjecting and telling the states, like, hey, they're too feebled elder people. Like, what else are they gonna do? They're just gonna get they're gonna die. But it's just that the atonement of seeing this country do better and fix the issue of, hey, you took away so much from the victims of what took place. It was a negative, disgusting stain on this country's history. The least bit you could have done is at least pass or enact something where you could be of benefit to the victims. But again, why are we not surprised? Because this is all built on racial tension and historical racial divide. I just feel like this whole idea of, and in celebration of Juneteenth, the reason why Black people need a holiday to celebrate is because for 200 years, this country has been stoked on the idea of racial division and white superiority and Black people are inferior and all of that nonsense. And we've proven time and time again, with Jesse Owens and the Olympics with Hitler and Jackie Robinson, if to name a few. And you have countless people that have not to say at least, but you have like sports. We've been dominant in sports. You have Arthur Ashe in tennis. You have Serena Williams in tennis. You have Michael Jordan in basketball, as well as every basketball team.
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali in boxing, as well as Tiger Woods, which is technically half Black, in Tiger. In golf. So there's athletics, there's a whole bunch. I mean, how much more do you want Black people to prove? And that's my issue with this country. We've proven so much that in time it's like, oh, you have these people that are like the all lives matter people, like, oh, but why are we going back and trying to remind, why are we always looking back in history? Because you need to be reminded of what took place. You cannot ignore the issues that came about from, this country's historical background. I mean, this is the same country that wiped out pretty much half the Aboriginal people or Indians that were here. And this is their land that you came on and encroached on. But do you see any majority Indians owning that much land anymore? No. because we've erased all of that and over time acted like it never happened. You can't erase history, and that's the main issue that we have. But you can correct it by doing reparations. You can correct it by getting rid of these racist epitaphs and statues that you have in place, and put people that have made significant contributions to this country's growth. You could pass laws that you like, for instance, Joe Biden, like he's passed an abundance of laws that were so detrimental to this Black community. You could basically curtail that by rescinding these laws, or you know what I mean. Like, there's certain things that you could do, and you still have time to do them. Why not fix the issue and try to bring about a positive outlook from there? But I think going back to this woman and the fact that in celebration of Juneteenth tomorrow, which is it's basically if I'm not mistaken, it's a mandatory Black, well, not Black, national holiday in the U.S. I don't know how many people celebrate it. I don't know how many states celebrate it, but I could have sworn it's technically isn't it? I could be wrong, but it's technically a mandatory holiday. It should be, because Joe Biden got it into law.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a federal holiday.
Some companies they pay for it. Other companies don't. I don't
And
know
that's
why, but
other gripe is that why is it that day but nobody is seriously, some people not taking it seriously. That's another issue that I feel like you could win something, but you can't win all when it comes to Black issues or Black initiatives, like causes like these. Like Juneteenth should be a federal mandatory holiday. Everybody should get paid for it. Everybody should understand why it was put in place. Everybody should see the significance of it. There's so much, again, that the Black diaspora, the Black in the community, the Black people have done. There's a plethora of things that over time has come about from the civil rights movement, from Black people in history that have done the most, and we barely learn that much in school anymore about the cases or the laws and the push and the initiative, that the significance of Black people's stamp on history. But I would implore a lot of parents out there like myself who have kids that only hear the regular staples like the Rosa Parks and the Jackie Robinson. Yes, they're all good there, here and there, but you need to dig or dive deeper and explain to your children the major push and causes of what came about from this country. I feel like they're slowly but surely whitewashing the interest of Black initiatives like the Juneteenth movement, or certain things, and we're not going to see CRT. It's never going to come up. I would hope it would, but white people in general, I feel, have this problem where they don't like recollecting past issues. It's something that's like such a negative thing for certain white people to accept, and to take onus or take responsibility for such a major stain in history would be too much for some people to handle. So don't look towards seeing CRT put in place anytime soon. But what you can do as parents, what you can do as guardians, what you can do as people of vested interest, is to teach your kids the significance of the Black contribution to this country, or to the world at that. There's so much that Black people have done that you will never see come about, and that's kind of like sad in itself. Like, who invented the three-way light that you see, that you use every day, the red, green, the red, yellow, and green light that you literally have to stop for? It was invented by a person. You would never hear that because that's not something that they want you to know. But we know. But over time, that's our main thing that we need to be pushing, is to make sure we remind each other of the major contributions to what the Black community has done for this country, as well as the rest of the world, and teach your kids the significance, because over time, when you're gone, they're not going to remember that, and they have to continue that legacy of reminding their kids, and their kids have to learn that after. Because if we don't do it, no one else is going to do it, and that's the significance. But for that celebration of Juneteenth, and that wonderful lady with her with the house that they built back for her, good on them. At least that's a part of reparations. That's a part of a good initiative. I I applaud them for it, and let's hope they continue doing that. Try correcting the wrongs that this country has done for those that they've done wrong to, and let's just build a positive outlook going forward. But lest we forget history, we should never ignore that.
All right, thanks, Ricardo. I'm gonna go to another video here. 1 second. This video it's like a focus group on the upcoming election and the way people are feeling about uh, the choices that we have for the upcoming election. A lot of people feel this country is doomed. Let's take a look at this video real quick and we'll be back on the other end.
Well, as 2024 shapes up to be a bitter rematch, longtime Republican pollster Frank Luntz is sharing some never-before-seen video from his focus groups, sharing it with Outfront. Take a look.
How condescending was Obama? I couldn't stand to watch that guy. He just looked down on top of everybody. Trump will get down in the dirt and work with you.
So
Obama
you
would never have done that.
You want respect, but you have a president who takes on women, minorities, everything but white
And you know what?
males.
He won the
attacks.
election. And he won.
He didn't get
and
the
you guys
popular
can't
vote.
handle that.
He didn't.
I don't know why he's racist.
No,
You
why
have
do
to
you
ask
see
him.
it that way?
Why do black people hate Because he sits up and he says all those Mexicans are rapists and murderers.
That's not what I want.
Okay, and then, yes, he did say that. Yes, he
He said
did.
they're sending
Can
the
I finish
worst
my? I
among
didn't
them.
say that. You're talking about. I'm talking about when he was running.
Yeah, I
Can
know. He
finish
said
my point?
they send
And I
the
get this
worst
on my phone
among
every
them.
day.
Some of them
Can I
are
finish?
rapists. Some
You're
of them are
asking
drug
me.
dealers and
You're-
murderers.
They ask me what I feel.
Frank is with me now. So that's just that's a small snapshot, right? You shared a fair amount of video with us. When we look at that, you've said the country is more divided than ever. I think a lot of people would agree with you, but this video evidence, why, how, why is it this bad? What are you learning from these groups in these moments?
That there's no editing anymore. There's no censorship. That we now say what we think. We say what we want people to hear rather than trying to learn. To me, it's not about the mistakes made. It's about the lessons learned. And no one's trying to learn anything from this. They simply want to be heard, and they will shout to be heard.
They want to be heard. Do they want to listen?
No, they don't want to listen. They don't want to learn. And my issue in this is children are watching. Our kids are watching this, and they're learning model behavior. There's a reason why in universities and in schools all across America, more young people are acting out. There's more shouting. There's more aggression. And that they see it from the politicians. They see it from Washington, D.C. They see it in focus groups like
They may
this.
see it at a school board meeting.
And the school boards are the worst.
Yes.
Parents go there and they threaten the people on the school board. You have to get cops in there. What is wrong with this country that we've gone that far? That's my question I keep asking.
So I think it's a question a lot of Americans are asking. I was struck, too. You also sat down recently with some younger voters, and you talked to them specifically about democracy. I want to play those moments.
Is our democracy in danger of failing? Raise your hands if you say yes. Wow, I'm shocked at how many. Does anyone here, by a show of hands, think our democracy is truly strong? You got 2 people, that's it.
2 hands.
We're in trouble. We're in trouble. I don't know what to do about it. This is my craft. This has been my trade for the last 30 years. I've been seeing this get worse and worse. 74% of Americans now say they're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore. 83% say we're more divided than we've ever been. Even people 65 and older, old enough to remember the killing of Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, our cities burning down. They say this is the most divided it's ever been.
They're mad as hell. They're not going to take it anymore. You said, what, 74%? But why are they mad? Can they articulate why they're mad?
Yes, they believe they've been ignored, forgotten, and the worst of all, betrayed. And I'm paying attention to the words and phrases they use because the stronger the language, the greater the anger. And I've seen this and I feel this, and I'm reminding them, your children are watching, your friends are watching, and they don't care anymore because they want to own the opposition rather than change the opposition.
Or talk to the opposition. Really quickly, too, because I do want to get to one other topic with you. The younger voters you spoke with there who see the democracy at risk, only 2 of them said that democracy is strong. Where are they? Are they mad as hell? Are they just throwing up their hands? They want to try to change anything?
They don't like anybody. They see Joe Biden as being too old. They see Donald Trump as being corrupt. They don't like anyone. They don't have everyone to follow. They're looking for a role model. They're looking for someone to aspire to be, and they don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's their frustration.
So that's the frustration. We're going to see if they're able to change it. I do want to ask you about, you posted, probably a lot of people who are watching may have seen a tweet from you in the last day. You posted that you suffered a stroke on Monday, and yet you're sitting here tonight. Part of the reason you wanted to come in was to share that information, but also to talk about some real health concerns. So before I let you go, I do want to give you a moment to do that and to share with our viewers why that's so important to you.
Because it's personal responsibility, and I'm supposed to act properly. I'm supposed to know what is right, what is wrong. I was very active in getting people vaccinated during COVID. I've been very active in a nonpartisan way in trying to teach people what's the right thing to do. And then I behave badly and I suffer for it. And so I look at people right now, take your medications, do what your doctors tell you to do. And we have to take personal responsibility in this country. We can no longer blame other people, no longer say it's their fault. It's my fault. I got it wrong. Behave properly and do the right thing, and we can save our country.
We'll see if this starts us maybe on a better track. Frank, I'm glad you're doing well. Glad you felt well enough to be here tonight. Continue that road to recovery. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there you go. Personal responsibility. You have people on a panel that have lost their minds, and we have the constant gridlock in the country. What did you think about that piece there, Ricardo, as far as the polls that they're showing and the opinions of the people on those polls?
Well, we're not the least bit surprised. I mean, people are very, I call it the great divide indeed, because right now you're seeing a lot of people angry. I don't know who specifically is angry, but it seems mostly from the other side. They're angry at a number of things. I don't know if it's the idea that slowly but surely you're seeing nationalism, and if MD was up on the panel, he would have told you why. White nationalistic views are slowly being depleted in this country, which because we're slowly becoming more integrated and more, I guess, interracially mingled. So over time, white values wouldn't be that of a staple. It will mostly be a back burning issue. So I feel like certain people are slowly seeing that depleted, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, no, we got to keep certain things to ourselves, and it used to be this way, or back in my day, and it's like, yeah, but now we're progressing, we're moving a little bit more further, and so with progression, you're going to see certain things that used to be not be anymore. So you can't be angry at that, but that's what you're seeing. Is like, I feel like white men in general that are older can't rationalize the thought process of what used to be or how they used to have it back then. It's not how it's going to be going forward. And so you're getting that angry side, which they claim came about due to Obama becoming president. I fail to realize that. I fail to see that. Maybe there were certain policies that Obama pushed, but that should never have been on the account of because he's the first black president. I think it's bull crap and it's BS, but I digress. I think there's a number of things that needs to be tackled, and it's not because we need to tackle them, but it's more so, why is it that we seem to be doing this color brushing thing? Maybe I'm just speaking from my opinion, not Van Cat's. So don't come after Van Cat, but it's just me voicing my opinions here, people. Because there's a lot of crazy people out there. Why is it that we can't look from the lens or the perspective of a black person here in this country? Why is it that we, for instance, if you're a black person like I am in the work field, in the workforce, so is Van Cat, because Van Cat works as well, as much as MD and Mr. Straight Talk. why is it that when we bring up certain issues, it's like, oh, he's very aggressive. You're gonna hear certain words that are used. Aggression is one. Another one is there's certain nuances that is being used, and I think it over time becomes problematic because in the work field, a Black person has to somewhat present the demure side to themselves as opposed to being always angry. And there's certain things, and that's the same thing that Obama had to do. If you notice, whenever he spoke, he was like, I do not want to present the angry Black side of a Black man as president, because it doesn't do myself or my community any justice. And what he means by that is, I don't want to give people that are on the far right a reason to be like, see, I always tell you those Black people are always, that's not what he wants. And that's what we literally go through every day. It's like you consistently have to be a certain way, present yourself a certain way in a certain light, or you can't be speaking, Black talk. You have to speak whitish, or there's certain things that you have to do because, again, you're going to be presented or looked at or viewed as negative. That's the problem even that if you walk into a store and you're just going about your business, so you're going to have some woman clutching her pearls or thinking you're coming in there to steal, or it's like this very negative idea that you see, and this is contributing a great deal towards the great divide that you're seeing, where on one side people are saying, hey, but why can't you see it from my lens, where the other side is everybody's like, well, back in my day when my father was alive and so forth and blah blah blah, this is what they would have done. It's like, no, you have to learn to commingle and be able to be like have disagreements and then still be able to like look me in the eye tomorrow and say, hey, we're going to work on this because we're a team, and not be like, I'm opposed to you because I hate you because you so and so. Like it shouldn't be like that. And I think a testament to this is fist politics. We have opposing views. I'm sure MD has opposing views than Venkat and myself, or Mr. Street Talk might have opposing views that we may not like. But at the same length and breath, we're not going to hold that against each other because on account of I don't like something Venkat says or I don't like what MD says, I'm going to hold that grudge until God he knows forever. Like that, it shouldn't be like that. I feel like if this country needs to move forward, the main people that are at the helm of this country's politics need to be accountable, and it starts from the very top. If these people that are politicians learn in this day and age, especially in the election going forward, learn to at least put aside their disinterest in the discourse, perhaps this country could, pivot a little bit more forward. But we're not doing that. We're hearing the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the certain set of people like doing the most, and it's like, how are you helping to curtail the discourse or the great divide that we're seeing? Nobody's able to do that. One side is able to move forward, and why is it that Democrats are always the ones to try to fix or change things when they come into power? It shouldn't be like that. Like, I feel like there's people that are at play that do the discourse, and they do it at a great disjustice to the American citizens, and it shouldn't be like that. If you have a disagreement, I should be able to say, hey, Venkat, I didn't like what you said yesterday, but that don't mean I'm going to be like, I'm not going to talk to you today, or I'm going to give you the stink eye. It should be like, hey, all right, I hear you, Cardi. You might not like what I said yesterday, but hey, guess what? Me and you can look each other in the eye and say, hey, there must be some common interest that both of us have, and then we can move forward. It always used to be like that. I feel like when Trump came in, he played on that white nationalistic point of view of the discourse, and it's like everybody's been using him as that mantra of, see, he's gonna do this for us, and this. It's like, really, people, it's propaganda. That's all that is. And like MD said in the show, he's gonna use every tactic possible to get back into power because he's desperate. Desperate times calls for desperate measures, and that's all you're seeing him doing. He's gonna tell you a whole bunch of crap, a whole bunch of kumbaya, a whole bunch of selling you a dream. He's a grifter. That's what grifters do. They sell you a dream to then in the end say, oh, well, I kind of gave you a little piece of the chocolate as opposed to a whole enchilada. So it's like, I don't understand why people can't see that. But that according to this, the piece that you saw, the great discourse is like, going into this election will be a major issue. I don't think it's going to subside. I will hope so, but we've seen instances where in politics it takes a great tragedy for it to kind of subside, and we've seen that with what's her name that got, is it Gabby her name was, that she got shot in the head by this lunatic
Yeah,
rally?
Gabby Giffords.
Right, Gabby Giffords, where her husband was the astronaut. That
Yes.
was a changing point in this history when we realized, okay, there's lunatics out there, but they will go to great lengths and breadths to do certain things. We've seen it with Pelosi's husband, where she was not home. Thank God she wasn't. But the lunatic went inside the house and used a hammer and almost killed her husband on account of he's a Trump supporter. And there's a whole bunch of, like, what are we doing? This should be the case.
Donald Trump made fun of that. Donald Trump went on stage and made fun of it multiple times.
And it's like, it was nothing. But it wouldn't be a problem until them. And this, but it's the same thing with anything in this country. Until it affects the main people that are in power, they won't do anything to it to alleviate the problem, because why should I care? And that kind of attitude doesn't work with the discourse that we're seeing. It should be like, hey, I don't like what you're saying. I don't agree with what you're doing, but at the same length of breath, let's meet at the middle and find a common ground and solve the issues. Until we do that, we're not going to be able to move forward, and that's the main problem to the great fight that we're seeing.
Yes, yes. Thanks for that, Ricardo. So before we go into session, the lame duck session, we have one last video, because Ricardo mentioned about critical race theory, and this isn't particularly critical race theory, but it is pointing out the difference. I should say, really, the phenomenon of Republicans getting rid of the history of blacks in this country, and the plight and all the tragedies and ordeals that has been attached with being black in America. They're trying to downplay that. We've seen Ron DeSantis on an all-out assault, removing books. But Donald Trump was right there with it as well. Let's just take a quick look at this video here. It's a pretty interesting piece, and it just breaks down the agenda, really, that the people on the right, for most part, trying to suppress Black history.
5 years ago, the investigative journalist Nicole Hannah-Jones, in collaboration with a long list of other journalists and historians, published a long-form piece in the New York Times Magazine. It was called The 1619 Project. First published in August 2019, the project marked 400 years since the beginning of slavery in America. The project was designed to make the consequences of slavery and the contributions of black Americans a larger part of our national discourse. Nicole Hannah-Jones later developed that New York Times Magazine initiative into an award-winning book, also called The 1619 Project. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend that you do, or at least start with Hannah-Jones' first essay titled, "Our Democracy's Founding Ideals Were False When They Were Written. Black Americans Have Fought to Make Them True." The premise is not complicated, nor should it be divisive. It's simply true. The principle that every man is created equal was not remotely true when it was written by this country's forefathers. Hannah-Jones won a Pulitzer Prize for the project, but of course we all know that the story doesn't end there. A few months after Hannah-Jones won the prize, our then President Donald Trump sparked what would become a nationwide backlash against her work.
The left has warped, distorted, and defiled the American story with deceptions, falsehoods, and lies. There is no better example than the New York Times totally discredited 1619 Project. This project rewrites American history to teach our children that we were founded on the principle of oppression, not freedom. By viewing every issue through the lens of race, they want to impose a new segregation, and we must not allow that to happen.
Much better story than what was actually happening. Shortly thereafter, Trump issued a series of executive orders targeting the ideas specifically behind the 1619 Project. One of those executive orders established something called the 1776 Commission, which was a promise to implement what he called a, quote, patriotic education and the banning of so-called divisive issues like reckoning with the racist history of this country. President Biden repealed the 1776 Commission on his first day in office, but the ideas behind it remain alive and well and strong across this country. In the following couple of years after it was published, states would introduce at least 23 gag orders targeting the 1619 Project by name. Dozens more bills targeted it indirectly, usually by attempting to ban discussions of its core ideas. Other ideas of how to think and talk about race in America got swept up into the battle as well. Last year, a study through UCLA found that, including local efforts, anti-critical race theory measures have been introduced in every single state except for Delaware. The 1619 Project is not critical race theory in itself, but it inspired such broad backlash that almost any program, project, or theory about race came under attack. The effort to ban identity-conscious ideas and programs has led to the end of affirmative action. It's led to the widespread attacks on systems built to promote true equity, like diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Project 2025, the blueprint for a potential second term for Trump, funded by the Heritage Foundation, includes suggestions to eliminate critical race theory, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and other identity-conscious paradigms from education nationwide, from all federal departments, from as many parts of American life as it can. In fact, the whole MAGA agenda can be seen as an answer to the 1619 Project. It actively promotes the widely debunked idea that claiming color blindness is how we're actually going to achieve equality in this country. It discourages or even outlaws schools from teaching about systemic racism. It removes Black and Indigenous histories from curricula. It glosses over the darkest parts of our national history. It claims that encouraging people to consider race and systems of oppression is in itself a form of racial discrimination. Pretending that we can ignore race, pretending that we can ignore the anti-Black systems upon which this country was built is a disservice to us, and it threatens our democratic system at its very core.
All right, the 1619 Project. Here we have conservative Republicans, or I don't know, snowflakes, whatever you want to call them, once again, threatened by the history that they helped create and not wanting to hear about it. So, Ricardo, what do you think? You got Ron DeSantis, you got Donald Trump, and you have other Republican con artists on the other end trying to suppress Black American history. What do you think about this story?
Well, color me not surprised by this story as well. It all comes back down to what I was saying earlier about slowly but surely there are gonna be instances where we're gonna see. There's gonna be certain instances where you're gonna see race-related topics, regarding this community, the Black community, be slowly taken out of either the school systems, out of the textbooks, on account of the shame and the responsibility that came about because of the prejudices that we see throughout history. Now, South Africa had to go through the same exact problem. If you remember, apartheid there was not a squeaky clean issue, but there's ways to correct that. Nelson Mandela was placed in prison. And I think it was in prison for, if not 10 to 20 years. When he was released from prison on account of the Kirk, I think it was at the time, which was the president then, there was an election put in place, and Nelson Mandela and the president of the same country that put him in prison. So that's a way of correcting the wrongs, and I feel like that's an example that this country needs. It needs to correct the wrongs. Either it be doing what California did, where they put out the reparations for Huntington Beach, which used to be a Black established owned beach until white supremacist people came and took it over, mainly the Triple K people. And they corrected that by giving back the original family members who owned the beach, the land of Huntington Beach. I think it was Huntington Beach, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it was. But the family ended up sending it back because, for whatever reason, we'll never know. But that's correct in history. If you could do stuff like that, by all means, it helps with that initiative. It's just that you would not. If I would love to interview, if I have the opportunity, a white person one day that feels differently than what my optics would be in terms of history, because not all white people view the same viewpoints like how myself would view history. Not every white person going to think the same way I think, because from my lens, it's completely than that person's. So there's a lot where you hear me always say that all lives matter. People will never get it because they're going to be like, oh, well, why are we talking about this? We've moved forward. Why you guys keep going back to this whole slavery element? And the reason for that is because there's so much wrongs this country has not corrected since. Many Black folks, mainly, who have been here, who have been slave descendants, never got the 40 acre of is it 10 acre of land or 40 acre of land and a mule.
40 acres and a mule.
And a mule, right? They never got that. And it's still something. I mean, every other group of people who have been done wrong in history have gotten some form of reparation, whether it be the Japanese that were in encampments during World War II, whether it be the Israeli Jewish people that were affected by the propaganda machine in World War II. Would it be like everybody else has gotten reparation except for the main people that helped build this country, which are the Black people? And every time we get to this topic, it's like, oh, why are we even going back to if you guys need to go back to Africa? It shouldn't be like that. It should be a simple discussion of let's find a lineage of, because we have so much at our disposal when it comes to technology. There's so many things now that we could use to trace back lineages of people who are descendants of slaves and correct the wrongs. It's not that hard. But what the problem that you're going to face now is that from what I've been told, is that it signals a bankruptcy to the government. The government can't pay it. Then if you can't pay it, find some way, some form of method to try to correct the issue that has been plagued in this country from the beginning of its inception. You want to make sure that you correct the wrongs. You want to make sure that you state the facts and put the wrongs either by when we say correct the wrongs, put it in textbooks and say, hey, this is what the country was founded on, the principle of the divide. This is how we're going to correct it going forward. It's not going to be in agreement with everybody in terms of how they think and how they view things, but we can do things that will curtail that going forward. I don't think we're going to be able to get to that place just yet because it's still so fresh in many people's minds and some people still think otherwise. But when it comes to that, I think we have to start at some point somewhere. And I just don't know if the country is in that place just yet, if that makes sense. But the critical race theory is a start. I feel like when it was brought about by certain people, my governor DeSantis said, hell no. I think the state governor of Texas said no. I think there's a whole bunch of people that said no because, again, it's that negative thought process of admitting guilt to something that you knew happened, but don't want to take accountability for it just yet. I don't think the country is in that place yet, but we're approaching the 250 year by the anniversary of where this country was founded on. Maybe we could get to that place in maybe a year or two. I doubt it. I really do, but we'll see. I digress. There's many things that have surprised me over time, but critical race theory is just not going to be it. I think they need to change the name to something else and perhaps we could start somewhere, but anything that regards a race in it just won't work. I doubt it. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my take.
All right, Ricardo, thank you for that. So now we're going to get ready to go into session. We're going to get ready for the lame duck session. And this week, we got lame duck number 43. So here we go. Lame duck now.
First things first, in this lame duck session.
For the United Nations General Assembly to share the extraordinary progress we've made. In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
You're trying your best, but it never feels like enough.
I started having second thoughts almost the moment I sat down on the plane.
Lights off! Off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off. Turn them off. Let's go. Ready? Turn
We
off
go back
the
a long way.
Turn off
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
So I changed my return flight and flew back on the first available flight I could take.
Tired of smart guys.
I'm sick and tired of ordinary people being fleeced.
I'm tired of being quiet.
Yeah, I'm sick and tired. I'm just sick and tired. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
With great power comes great responsibility.
These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones. You see? That's how far I've come. That's how far I've come. That's a long way, isn't it? These lights. You want to see a bird graveyard? You just go. Take a look. A bird graveyard? Go under a windmill someday. You'll see more birds than you've ever seen ever in your life.
Republican U.S. Senate candidate Royce White sparred with chief political reporter Tom Hauser today about expenses involving limos, strip clubs, and more.
Here's Tom with the highlights of his exclusive interview that you'll only see on 5 Eyewitness News at Issue this Sunday.
I'm committed after getting this endorsement.
Republican U.S. Senate candidate Royce White has a simple explanation for why he thinks he won the party endorsement at the state party convention.
I had a very focused message about my key issues, border debt, forever wars.
His responses are more complicated to questions about a complaint filed against him by a D.C.-based watchdog group regarding his campaign spending during a 2022 congressional race.
First off, I don't recognize them as being legitimate. I think they and many other institutions across this country have become very partisan.
The complaint filed by the Campaign Legal Center questions $157,000 in campaign spending they say appears to be for personal expenses.
Any novice could look at my FEC filings and tell that they're incomplete. By any standard, they're just incomplete.
But the filings that are complete raise a lot of questions, like $1,200 spent at a Miami, Florida strip club. Speaking of strippers,
Yes.
Let's talk about the $1,200 for the strip club that
Yes.
are in your FEC report. What is that $1,200 for? What campaign-related expense was
Well, we're still looking back. Look, we're doing a full forensic of the 2022 campaign and figuring out what went wrong, what miscommunications, missteps happened.
Was there a campaign event at the Gold Rush strip club in Miami?
No, actually, we got food catered from the Gold Rush, I believe. It was 2 years ago, so I can't be perfectly sure. But the Gold Rush has great food, and I've always enjoyed the food at gentlemen's clubs all across the country. But we'll be able to figure that out once we finish the accounting.
He did bring documentation for some of the more than $100,000 in non-itemized expenses, which he says were for everything from videography to marketing services.
None of those wire transfers went to Royce White or anybody else really closely connected to my campaign.
You took a car service from Tampa, Florida
Yes.
to Atlanta, Georgia.
Yes.
Some people would say that is excessive spending. In fact, most people would.
Would they?
Well, I think most people would, yes.
But the question again becomes, are they partisan?
Your claim is there were filings which said you spent campaign funds at a strip club, but they were incorrect filings.
No, they didn't say that I spent the funds at a strip club. Or no, let's say they didn't say that I spent the funds on strippers.
But it was spent at a strip club.
Well, strip club they sell food at the strip club, don't they?
So you've spent the money on food at a strip club. Is that more accurate?
Did you know that though?
Club.
Did you know that?
I know strip clubs have restaurants.
Have you ever been to a strip club?
One time.
Did you like the food?
No.
You got to go to better strip clubs then.
Okay.
Have you ever spent campaign money at a strip club? Now, this guy hasn't even spent campaign money on a strip club. What am I talking to this amateur for? Okay, it's about to get funnier. This guy gets into one mess after another. He's actually a Republican running for office. And the new mess he got into, he's going to try to get out of by referring to his left testicle. We're going to get there.
The Daily Beast reported at 5 in the morning 1 week after Republican Royce White lost his 2022 Minnesota congressional primary, his campaign shelled out more than $1,200 in donor funds to a vendor 1,800 miles away, not typically associated with political expenses. An all-nude strip club in Miami, Florida called Gold Rush Cabaret.
It was recently revealed you spent campaign donations at a strip club. Is that true?
That's not true.
Okay. It's been sourced very well by the Daily Beast. Where'd they get this information?
The Daily Beast, first of all, the Daily Beast is not a good source. That's number one. But number two, it wasn't well sourced even in that article at all. It was a reference to a campaign filing with the FEC that was not done properly.
But so what you're saying is you did spend the money at strip clubs, but on food. Is that right?
Well, I'm not saying that I spent the money. I'm saying that there was a filing on my FEC report that shouldn't have been there and potentially should have been reimbursed by somebody who may have been at the strip club, but that there is food at the strip club. So to say it was spent on strippers is not based on factual evidence.
I didn't say that.
Especially not from the Daily. You did.
I said strip club, not strippers.
No, well, okay. Well,
Which
that's
is the
what's
same thing you're
implied
saying,
by
right?
the Daily Beast.
It's the same thing you're saying, right? So we agree.
But that's what's been implied by the Daily Beast and other people as well.
Money was spent at a strip club by someone else in your campaign on
That's
food.
what's been implied by the Daily Beast and other mainstream media outlets as well.
And what's the truth?
I just told you.
Look, I don't care that he went to a strip club. I just told you I've gone to strip clubs. Probably an enormous percentage of men have gone to strip clubs. And of that enormous percentage, almost none of them went for the food. Okay. So the problem isn't that, brother. It's spending the campaign money, donor money. Look, man, you got big, rich Republican donors and you want to waste their money on strippers, no problem. Waste their money, okay? But guys giving you $5, $10 at a time thinking that you're going to deliver for them and you're over in Miami doing some sort of gold rush business. That's the problem. Imagine the guy in the back of the strip club or in the front of the strip club, not spending a dime on strippers, just gorging $1,800 of food. $1,800 of food at a strip club? Come on, man. Yeah. Come on, bounds of reason.
So Royce decided to make an even bigger fool of himself later this week. He tweeted this. It says, "Crime in Minneapolis, out of control. Come on now, refund the police." But a little bit of fact checking revealed that this was actually a map of drinking fountains in Minneapolis parks. The tweet says, "Oh wait, this is a map of drinking fountains in Minneapolis parks. Carry on." Oops. White's mistake was immediately taken down and replaced with an actual crime map for Minneapolis, but the screenshots were already grabbed and the people were not going to let him forget about this. This tweet says, "Sorry, Royce responded an account named Minneapolis Dad under White's new post. You tweeted my map of Minneapolis drinking fountains. There's no escaping this." White appeared incensed that he was duped, responding back to one account who poked fun at him saying, "Shut your mouth, you blue wave cuck." Can I say cuck? I just said it.
Yeah.
Of course, White's favorite publication, the Daily Beast, decided to run with the story, leading him to go off yet again. Okay, let's do this. It says, "My left nut gets more media attention than this left rag. It's been a great couple of weeks. The MSM blinks every time I take a leak. You people are scared-less, and I love it. Every time you get a story wrong and spell my name right, you might as well send a donation." I mean, I guess he needs those donations to pay for his strip club taquitos or their steaks or chicken wings. I don't know. But funny enough, shortly after his tantrum, the Daily Beast published another story about how he owes $100,000 in child support payments. It says the mother of White's daughter shared images from Minnesota's online child support portal showing White owes her $100,086.82, having made just one payment this year of $523.91 earlier this month. And of course, he just denied that too. But, he has a point. The more the media talks about people, the more publicity they get. Even, or maybe especially if the stories are unflattering, let's say, they become even more endeared to the MAGA right-wing crowd. It's like they see themselves as rebels or even underdogs.
Look, Republicans, this isn't about Royce White. Royce White's an obvious clown to anyone who is paying attention, has an IQ in the double digits. Like, this is the most obvious thing in the world. So he won in a primary couple of times, and he's your candidate. Are you proud? You guys are proud of this? Okay. Look, I don't mind irreverent. I don't care at all, man. He can talk about his left nut all day long. I don't care. He can go to a strip club. I don't care. He can call people cucks. I don't care. I'm the guy who believes that, using that kind of language, it's totally fine. I don't give a goddamn about civility, right? But he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, man. I do care when you take good people's money and spend it at a strip club, whether it's for steak or perhaps other kinds of meat. But in the way that he would put it. But I mean, you're voting for literal lunatics here, guys. It's embarrassing.
Oh, yeah. All right. There he goes. There he goes. There he is. Lame duck number 43. Trash bag human of the week. Royce White. Ricardo, what do we think of Royce White?
Well, Mr. White, I don't know. Again, it's alleged you've been sir, spending them donors' money and paying money for wings, and it ain't Red Bull. So, I mean, to come to his defense, it's easy for us to be like, hey, because I'm hearing a negative connotation about strip clubs. For all of y'all that are out there that don't know about South Florida's culture when it comes to strip clubs have launched plethoras of artists out there, and it's been a staple in terms of entertainment. But when it comes to food and cuisine, there ain't nothing like a good strip club food. I hate to break it to some of y'all out there. If you've never tried a good strip club wings, or because them strip club wings be hella expensive now because it ain't cheap no more. But when I used to be a patron at a strip club, and yes, Cardi used to be a patron at a strip club, and that's a whole nother story for another topic for another day, but it used to be fantastic cuisines in addition to seeing those big jiggly, flapping booties that you'll be seeing. But most people do go for the food, for the cuisines. I hate to break it to some of y'all, but it's just that Mr. White's story just didn't correlate well and didn't make sense. If you're going to the strip club just to eat food, sir, I would beg to disagree with you on that one. I ain't going just to eat food, sir. I'm going there to see ass. So if you had just fessed up in the beginning, it wouldn't look so bad for you. But I would just like to ask Venkat one simple question, sir, and maybe it's just me. What is with these damn Republicans being so damn horny all the time? Is it me, or you begin to see a trend where if it's not Beetlejuice, it's strip clubs. If it's not strip clubs, it's porno tapes. If it's not porno tapes, it's having sex on the side. Like, I don't understand, when did the Republican Party become so damn horny? They're always just aroused in the most bizarre way. I don't understand why they're so aroused I mean, they're hornier than the Democrats are. Not to say the Democrats ain't horny, but my God, it's like every single other.
Yeah, the Republicans been suppressing a lot, and it just comes out in weird ways.
I mean, must be suppressed like horny people, because like every other story you hear is about sex. It's like they can't seem to hide their displeasure of stifled blue ballsness that they have. Like I'm gonna need them to stop, because blue has always been associated with the other party. So I'm gonna need them to stop it. But I digress. So yeah, Mr. White's the only thing I would knock from the story is that yes, he could be correct there, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But them strip clubs, we don't say strip, we say script. Them strip club food be on point. It's top tier. When it comes to the wings and the ass. So, I mean, I just hate that he didn't admit it in the end. But you're going not only just for the food, so you're going for the booty, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's a good way for you to pass time. It's a good way for you to decompress at the end of the day. If you've never been to a strip club and then have that experience, I implore you to do so. Don't go to a shady, seedy one, but go to one that's a gentleman's club, is what we call it. One that is very reputable and respectable. And there's nothing reputable or respectable about going to a gentleman's club other than you seeing naked women and having a champagne room and all of that. But let me stop, because it's going to a whole nother topic that is for another day and time. But Mr. White, you do deserve the donkey of the day for not admitting that you're not only going there for the wings, but for other things.
Not the donkey. Not the donkey of the day.
Donkey of the day. And the lame duck. You had one opportunity to fix that wrong, and you just my God, sir, you just wasted that opportunity. But sir, do better next time. You could take your funds and make that lie sound more genuine than the fakeness that you just spewed out of your mouth. And with that, I digress. Strip club ain't bad.
Hey, strip clubs had some of the best food on the planet. Jug is good. When we first came to Florida, that's one of the first places we went was a strip club. And as little kids, we went to a strip club, and man, that food was ridiculously good.
I'm shocked to the event, Kat, that you just admitted that you went to a strip club, sir. What happened to your family values and all of that?
I'm just telling you, people are hungry. You gotta eat, man.
Oh, they hungry, all right. Were you? Let me stop.
Nah, but the food was amazing, though.
Yes,
it really was.
Because you always have that one person out there that's talking about, oh, I'm sure he's there talking about he went for this food. Yes, people, if you've never been to South Florida and been to one of these gentlemen clubs, the food be top tier. You can say anything about the club being dirty or the girls being wish-washy or whatnot, but when it comes to them wings or them food, the food will be top tier. That's what we go there for, than them women. But I digress.
It's crazy. It's crazy that good food is at a strip club. Right. Like you go to a place that's supposed to sell food and the food is trash. It's weird.
But it's weird that a strip club actually have the best cuisine food you've ever tasted. And I've heard that from not just myself, but people who have never ever been at strip clubs. And for the first time be like, oh my God, these food and these wings are amazing. And the drinks be top tier. There's a reason why, because they need you to come back as patrons. So they're not going
we were leaving. We were leaving, and when we found out it was a damn strip club, and the guy said the owner came out. He's like, no, we have really good food. It's not just a strip club. We have food. We sat down, ate that. That was some of the best food ever.
Exactly.
Lord.
So don't worry, folks. The TFP crew, including Mr. Straight Talk, is gonna hit up one of them strip clubs, and we're gonna do a review and let y'all know how it went. So we'll report back on TFP and let y'all know how that experience was. So
Trevor is saying he's got to disagree with this one. What does that mean? What do you mean you disagree? This guy is a bona fide lame duck. He got so many issues on top of issues. The lines that are going, just lying in a circle. He can't get his answers straight. Then he goes from spending campaign money at a strip club, which that enough would do it. But then he's like owing child support money. He's telling people about his left nut. I mean, this guy is straight cuckoo bananas, man. That if that ain't a lame duck, I don't know what is.
It really that's why I said, had he just been honest from the get-go, it wouldn't have been so bad. But the fact that he kept, digressing from what they've been, try to ask him, and he just keep going into a whole bunch of spewment of nonsense that kind of didn't help his cause. So it's like, well, sir, the facts have been evidence have been laid out in front of us in layman terms here. You've been spending campaign monies at a strip. Any way you look at it, it's going to look bad. You can't just say you're going there for food. There obviously is a reason why you're in a strip club. I mean, just say that you're there to see them beautiful, multicultural women that be in there, and that's.
Well, and you can tell the political environment here is so ridiculous because, if anything, that would give you all the reason to pause on this candidate, because he can't give you a straight answer on how was the money spent. He's saying that he may have not necessarily been the one to spend it. It may have been somebody. There's nothing straightforward about it. It's like all smoke and mirrors. Yeah, someone may have, from my campaign, bought some food at a strip club. That is crazy, because if you elect him to run your city or your state or the country, he's shown you that he can't be trusted, that he doesn't know how to appropriately apply the funds that's being accumulated through taxes and whatnot, that he would do the right things by the people that have elected him. So he's going to be a straight buffoon, do God knows what with your money. And then we'll have another COVID situation, not particularly COVID, but another disaster. And when you're looking for that money to fix that situation, it ain't going to be there. And we're going to be in that same rabbit hole, begging Uncle Joe and the federal government to bail you out. And this is the same story over and over again. This guy's a buffoon, man. He's a straight trash bag human.
He sure is. But again, folks, there ain't nothing wrong with you going to a strip club. Just admit out loud why you're going there, and it won't be so bad. But when you're skipping out $100,000 on child support and all of that, sir, it's not a good look. So I wouldn't suggest you be running on account of the alleged things that you're not doing. But do better, sir. Do better. Being the donkey of the day and the duck.
There you go, that donkey again. We deal with ducks, not donkeys.
Well, ducks, whatever we want to call it now, he's just lame all around. That's just lame, period.
You see Trevor on his campaign to promote anybody that's doing low grade work out there to help prop up Trevor. My God, he will not let this guy go down without a fight, because he needs him to be up there to take the bullets so Trevor can hide behind. Man, this guy is crazy, man.
Well,
I can't co-sign for this guy.
What Trevor is stating is that there is nothing wrong with you decompressing at a strip club and eating a good meal, like cuisine, either be steak or wing or whatnot. But for everybody to throw the negative connotation of why he was in the strip club, he was probably there to decompress. There's nothing wrong with you looking at ass and eating the wings and just be like contented from the stress of the days. There's nothing wrong with that. If he wants to choose to sit there and watch ass jiggle, a big booty in front of his face, and he just got back in the middle of it, let the man enjoy it. But what we're saying is that don't lie.
Not as a public official. Not as a public official.
Listen, you could be a public official. You could be Pope John Paul II, whoever you are. If that's how you feel to decompress at the end of the day, is by looking at ass and eating a good steak or chicken wing, by all means, my God, do it, man, because that's gonna help you get the relievement. And there's
what if Daddy Bush, George H.W. Bush, Daddy Bush, You know, he already has that whole stigma of being like a handsy old man, you know, grabbing on women and whatnot in his old age. Just he already has that going. Imagine if he was like in the White House, he just like, yeah, we just did the State of the Union. Now we're about to go down the street to Tipsy's.
Hey,
we
yeah,
go,
nothing
and
wrong
I'm
with
gonna see some ass jiggle. Good night, everybody. God bless America.
yeah, nothing wrong
Like
with
that's not gonna work.
let the men enjoy tootsies. Hey, if it even means like, but you know, I get your point because it's just the bad optics of it. Like if you see a pastor in a strip club,
There's certain jobs that
right, you
you
really
can't
can't.
be all out there like
I
that.
would not implore a pastor to be in his pastor attire being in a strip club talking about, yeah, girl, jiggle that ass. Let me see the ass flap, bend over it. It just doesn't work. You have certain decorums that you have to follow. Now, if you choose to put on a mask and hide yourself, by all means, and you could get away with that, go enjoy yourself. But there's certain qualifications that come with certain jobs. You know better as a pastor not to be in a strip club. It just won't work. I just don't expect Trump to be in a strip club, but we digress. I mean, he slept with a porn star named Stormy Daniels, and that weather was just bad for him. It was a whole hurricane. So we digress.
All right. So it's now the end of the show, so we'll do our final sign off. So Ricardo, go ahead and do your final sign offs for the evening.
Yeah, great show. Again, it proves our point again that you know, the black vote is not monolith. We have different variations of black voters that are out there. We have different interests, different things that pertain to us all. But at the end of the day, we have a civic duty, and that civic duty is to this election. And I implore everyone to be invested in their local interests, meaning like in the city that you live in or the jurisdiction that you're in. Find out who is running. Find out who is there as a staple. Who you can call to if there's an issue, like if your road fixed. There are a certain councilman or city council person that you could call up and say, "Hey, my road is repair. I'm paying taxes. How come it's not being?" Certain initiatives and pushes that we could do better at, other than having these random people shook and drive their way into churches on a random Sunday and say they did something. That's not good enough. I expect my local community members in the black community to do more. If it even means they say that I've made a pledge that I'm going to attend one of my city council meetings for the city jurisdiction that I'm in, just to, you know, voice my opinion and let them be known about the issues that matters to me. Affordable housing, why is rent going up, why is property taxes going high in an inflationary year? What is it that they're doing to bring about certain youth initiatives to the community, like getting youth off the street in all of that? There's certain things that we can do, and then you go and vote. These are things that you should vote for. These are things that you should be interested in fixing. Don't just complain months, days, weeks after election and say, I wish I'd done this and didn't, you know, do your due diligence and do it. That's what you're there for. That's your civic duty. By all means, do it. But again, black voters are important. Black vote matters. We, the black people, have a option to do so. I wish we had a third party initiative or somebody third round that we could vote for other than these two people that have been put in front of us, but we don't. So you have to choose one of the lesser evils and go with what you think would be of best interest to you. I know my taxes are, because when Trump passed that tax bill and it only benefited his goons, it really pissed me off because I can't 99 my tax bills anymore without Uncle Sam going, hey, you still have to pay taxes on that. So even if I got profit sharing from my company, that is going to be eaten up by Uncle Sam because on account of the tax bill that was passed during COVID by Trump and his goons. So that's something that affects me. But
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ricardo, but it's funny you say that because ever since then, when Trump passed those tax cuts, I've either owed or I've gotten very little tiny amounts back.
And there's a reason
It's
for it.
nowhere like it used to be.
Right. There's a reason for that. And I've complained. I've been complaining before it was passed, and I complained after. That a lot of things that he did during that time, it just skimmed over everybody's heads. It wasn't until the bill was passed and we filed taxes to realize, hey, you're taking a huge chunk out of my money here, and there's nothing I could do about it. Like even if I got, again, companies could make a profit and they give it to you, the worker, you're not going to see that in a good refund, because Uncle Sam takes a huge chunk out of that. You used to be able to 99 it, which is like a tax code that you use, and it will be like, okay, well, you're 99 it, but you can still get that money. Oh no, IRS says no, sorry, Bob. You would have to disclose all of that, and we get the cut out of it. So $1,000 now turns into $200. That's not fair to me as an American citizen that's paying taxes. Why is it the rich goons like Trump and his goonies that pass the tax bill get away with crap like, a whole gazillion amount of money, and then I get trickle down to the pyramid, which is me? That ain't fair. But these are things or issues that you, the American people that are out there listening to TFP, can vote on. And that's what I mean by doing your due diligence. You got to know to do your homework and be invested in politics. As much as it sucks, as much as it's boring, as much as it's not for everybody, still take a vested interest, because your kids, your family members, they get affected by it too. So that's where you have to do your due diligence and vote. Vote for things that matters for you, the main person, for your family, for your side pieces, for God knows who, your dog Billy. Vote for everything that's invested for you, because at the end of the day, they're gonna start taking away things, and you start seeing that already with Roe v. Wade, and you've seen it with the school act that they took away, and there's a whole bunch of stuff coming down the pipeline that we've yet to see. So, again, by you voting, it's in your hands, because there's now 2 justices that are going to be leaving, and the president picks that. So whosoever goes into power in November picks the next 2 Supreme Court justices. It's either going to be liberal or conservative. So you get to vote. That's where we get into this whole political movement and shifts. And it's very important. So take that very, very importantly. It's not something to be playing around lightly with. Vote. VOTE, vote.
Yeah, that's a great point there, Ricardo. And that more so than a lot of things. And there's like a lot of big stakes involved in this election. We say this a lot all the time. I know people get tired of it, and it sounds like crying wolf. But you already saw what happened when we allowed Donald Trump to stay. I mean, let's call it what it is. The guy just friggin' stole. Well, really wasn't Donald Trump. It was friggin' the turtle, Bitch McConnell. And there's two of those justices were illegitimate, and now you have 2 more coming up. And if Republican controls, that's going to be 2 more judges right there. And a lot of the things that you thought were struck down, you may think that it doesn't matter to me, doesn't affect me. Well, guarantee you, something will affect you at some point, and then it'll be too late. So I don't like doing fear mongering, but that's the reality of the situation. That aspect alone makes the election coming this November as high stakes as anything that you'll ever want to see. So I'm gonna do my final sign off right now. I do want to apologize for the beginning of the show. We had a few audio issues. Obviously, I have a lunatic dog that's going around biting all my wires, and I realized that that's what happened. What? Yeah.
The dog.
Yeah. This dog is just eating up all the wires, and I saw the bite marks on it. So that's what made my microphone not work, and that's what caused all these problems. But so I do apologize for that. Also, I want to do a special shout out to Trevor, Mr. Straight Talk. Last night's show, he disclosed that he was going through some tough times with some very deep, tough, heavy things that he's going through with his family. So we just want to wish him well. And any kind of good energy you can send his way and to his family, that's definitely a plus. That's definitely a positive. So wish the best to Mr. Straight Talk and everything that's going on there. Also, speaking of Mr. Straight Talk, yesterday, Trevor and Tequila had a phenomenal show yesterday. Trevor turned into the Jamaican Johnny Cochran and laid out a legal list of everything that was wrong about the plight that he had last night. And my God, what an amazing job there. Tequila refute all the things. I mean, it's like a long, multifaceted, wrapped story that is crazy. It is crazy. So if you missed that show, you need to check that show out. It's Tequila Speaks, and she's speaking on the slander. And my goodness, what a team. Check that show out. I was listening to it last night late when I was coming home from work. It is something else. And
shout out to Tequila, because she's STS greatest moderator, and you don't come for our moderator and think you're not gonna get some whiplash from it. We don't do that around here. We support Tequila all the way. So whoever was coming for her, do understand that unless she send for you, don't come for her. You understand? We don't play games around Straight Talk Society. So come corrected next time. We don't play that. Not around these parts.
Yeah, and people usually say that they got the receipts. Well, last night Trevor had the whole register, and he threw it at them last night. My God. Oh man. So check that show out if you didn't. Also, tomorrow night, if you please join us tomorrow night. It's not going to be Wrestling with Reality, but it's going to be a special show, and it's going to be the debut of Blocks, Buckets, and Beyond. This is the show with Mike and I, and it's an NBA show. It's really a basketball show, and on the debut episode, we're going to be talking primarily about Caitlin and the NBA. And yeah, exactly. So we'll be having a very fun, open discussion. So join me, Mike. I don't know if MD Ricardo, you're going to be here tomorrow night.
I'm going to make a try because I need to talk about why Pippi Longstockings keeps getting a whole bunch of play here, and people like my Angel Batty Reese is getting bad raps. Like, we're not going to play that game around here. So I have a lot to say and to get off my chest regarding Pippi Longstockings, aka Caitlin. Like, I've had enough with the nonsense. I really have.
Yeah, so it should be a fun time. There's a lot of interesting things we can discuss, talk about, and examine. So check us out tomorrow, 6 p.m. It's tomorrow, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on this channel, Straight Talk with Trevor. Speaking of Straight Talk with Trevor, so like I mentioned before, with the difficulties in the personal life, Mr. Straight Talk will not be around except for like a couple shows that he's already committed to. After those shows are done, he'll be taking an extended break, a hiatus. And so pretty much he'll be out for the whole month of July as he deals with the real tough news that he got. And so we'll be here at the Society holding down the fort. For MD, for Ricardo. Oh, and by the way, MD has a channel, and it's an amazing channel, and he's always covering these awesome topics. What I like about MD's show, especially Thoughtbox Live, my goodness, not to mention the God and Government show is also is also a sight to behold as well. But MD usually breaks down the issues, and you can get a better understanding of the policies and the issues that he's covering. So you'll do yourself a disservice if you don't check out MD's channel. It's MD20 on YouTube. And usually on Thursdays at 8:30 p.m., you got Thoughtbox Live. And on Mondays, you have the God and Government show. And that is about, I believe, also 8:30. So check out those shows on the MD20 channel, YouTube channel. Of course, you got Bones and Zay. Bones and Zay is on the UFC show.
Brothers.
The MMA brothers. And you just have to check the listings. They always have their upcoming shows posted. And it's primarily every time there's a big fight going down, they're going to give a pre-show to break down the anticipated card. And then they're going to review the actual outcome of each card. So there's always a before and an after show, typically a Friday pre-show and a Sunday after show. So check out on the Straight Talk Society, the MMA brothers right here on Straight Talk with Trevor. Of course, you got Man Talk Monday and a whole host of other shows. So check us out for the rest of this month and going forward. Next week, we'll be back again on TFP. Tuesdays, every Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am Venkat for my colleagues Ricardo, MD, Mr. Mike, Mr. Straight Talk, and of course, the technician, Jeremy. Peace to Jeremy. Peace to Tequila and Bones, Zay. I can go on forever. Have a great night, folks, and thanks for watching. Peace.
Peace.
She just said a terrible thing. You know what she said? Shout it out, because I don't want to. Okay, you're not allowed to say, and I never expect to hear that from you again. She said, I never expect to hear that from you again. She said he's. That's terrible. Terrible.